The sun rises, just as it did yesterday and 1,000 days before. But this morning, something is profoundly different. There was no alarm clock, no jolt into the world of deadlines and commutes. There is only the soft light filtering through the window and the sound of a bird outside. For years, you have dreamed of this. The freedom, the quiet. But the silence that greets you now is not the silence of peace. It is the silence of an empty stage after the play has ended and the actors have all gone home. It is a hollow space, vast and unfamiliar. Your briefcase, a trusted companion for decades, sits in the corner of the room. It seems like a relic from another lifetime, a symbol of a person you used to be. You look at your hands, the same hands that signed contracts, that shook on deals, that typed countless reports. And a question, quiet but insistent, rises from the stillness. Who am I, now that I am no longer what I do? This is the unspoken challenge of retirement. It is not about managing your finances. It is about managing yourself. When the noise of a busy career fades away, the noise inside your own mind can become deafening. The anxieties, the what-ifs, the quiet fear of being left behind, of becoming invisible. We spend our lives building an identity, a title, a role, and then one day, it is gone. We are left standing in this new open field, and we have forgotten how to simply be. But what if this emptiness is not a void to be feared? What if it is an invitation, a space, deliberately cleared, for the most important work of your life to begin? What if this silence is not an absence, but a presence, waiting to be heard? The wisdom of Zen, of the Buddhist path, is not a foreign belief system to adopt. It is a set of ancient, practical tools, a way of seeing, a way of listening. It is a gentle guide for navigating this new landscape of your life. It offers a way to transform the restless energy of anxiety into the calm stillness of awareness. It teaches us how to turn the feeling of emptiness into a sense of deep fulfillment. This is a journey inward, a journey to befriend the silence, a journey to come home to yourself and to finally, truly, sleep in peace. For decades, your life was a study in motion, a constant forward momentum, driven by schedules, responsibilities, and the relentless ticking of a clock. You were a river, flowing, carving a path, always heading somewhere. To stop was to fail, to fall behind. The very idea of stillness was a luxury, or perhaps a sign of irrelevance. And now, stillness is your new landscape. It stretches before you, vast and uncharted. The initial relief, the joy of unscheduled days, may have already begun to fade, replaced by a subtle creeping restlessness. An urge to do something, anything, to fill the silence. To prove you are still here, still useful. This feeling is the echo of a lifetime of momentum. It is the ghost of the river, still trying to flow even after it has reached the sea. We mistake this agitated idleness for rest. We believe that by simply not going to an office, we have stopped. But the mind, the body, they continue to run on the old fuel. They are still braced for impact, still listening for an alarm that will never ring. Here, in this new territory, we must learn a forgotten art. It is the art of truly stopping. This is not the same as having nothing to do. Having nothing to do is a passive state, a vacuum that the anxious mind rushes to fill with worries and phantom to-do lists. It is the state of the retired general who, lost without a war to fight, declares a new campaign against the weeds in his garden. He rises at dawn, maps out his strategy, and attacks the dandelions with the same ferocity he once reserved for his enemies. He is busy, yes. He is doing something, but he is not still. He is merely distracting himself from the profound silence of his new life. True stopping is an active verb. It is a conscious, deliberate choice. It is the general, finally exhausted, laying down his tools, and simply sitting on a stone bench in his garden. It is the act of dropping a heavy anchor, feeling the chain rattle, and knowing you are secure in this one spot, in this one moment, no longer at the mercy of the currents. This kind of stopping is a rebellion against the tyranny of endless becoming. It is a powerful declaration that for this moment, you are enough, right here. You do not need to be heading somewhere else. You do not need to be producing anything. Your only task is to be. In this active stillness, a space is created, a space to finally notice. For years, your body has been a silent partner in your career, absorbing the stress, the long hours, the constant, low-grade hum of adrenaline and cortisol. It learned to live in a state of high alert, the shoulders drawn slightly up towards the ears, ready for a fight, the jaw subtly clenched, holding back unspoken words, the breath shallow and quick, prepared for flight. This became your normal. You may not have even noticed it. Now that the external pressures are gone, the body is confused. It still holds the memory of the battlefield. It is still braced. Take a moment right now. Notice your shoulders. Are they tense? Let them drop. Allow them to feel heavy. Notice your jaw. Is it tight? Let your teeth part slightly. Let your tongue rest gently in your mouth. Notice your stomach. Is it in a knot? Breathe into it. Imagine that knot gently loosening, like a rope in water. This is not a forceful command. You cannot order your body to relax. That is the way of the frantic general. This is an invitation. You are giving your body permission, after all these years, to stand down. You are telling it that the war is over. It is safe to rest. It takes time. The tension may return, out of habit. That is all right. Simply notice it again, and gently, kindly, invite it to release. It is like melting ice, not shattering it. You are unlearning decades of tension, one gentle breath at a time. As you allow your body to quiet down, you will inevitably notice something else. The external world has become still, but the world inside your mind has become a marketplace of noise. It is as if every thought, every worry, every memory you successfully ignored in your busy life has now shown up, demanding to be heard. This is the monkey mind in its full glory. It chatters, it jumps, it worries about the past, it frets about the future, it replays a conversation from 20 years ago, it makes a list of groceries, it wonders if you are doing this relaxing thing correctly. The first impulse is to fight it, to say, "Be quiet." But this is like shouting at a storm to stop raining. It only adds more noise, more agitation. It creates a new conflict, a war within yourself. The wisdom of this path offers a different approach. Instead of fighting the noise, you welcome it. Imagine you are sitting on a comfortable chair by the side of a busy road. The thoughts are the cars passing by. A red sports car of anger, a slow, heavy truck of sadness, a family minivan full of old memories, a bicycle of a fleeting, happy thought. Your job is not to stop the traffic. It is not to judge the traffic. It is not to jump into one of the cars and drive away. Your job is simply to sit and watch it all go by. When a thought comes, you acknowledge it without attachment. You can say to yourself, there is a thought of worry, and then you watch it pass. You are not your thoughts. You are the silent, spacious awareness that witnesses the thoughts. You are the sky, and the thoughts are merely clouds drifting through. Some days the sky is full of dark, stormy clouds. Other days, it is clear and blue. The sky does not mind. It allows it all. By adopting this attitude of a kind, impartial witness, the noise begins to lose its power over you. It is still there, perhaps, but it is no longer your master. To help in this practice of witnessing, we need an anchor, something to hold us steady when the winds of the mind begin to blow. That anchor is the simple, undeniable reality of your body, right here, right now. So, let us practice this true stopping. Find a comfortable chair. You do not need a special cushion or a specific posture. Just sit in a way that feels both relaxed and dignified. Place your feet flat on the floor. Feel the solid ground beneath you. This ground is holding you up. It has been here for a long time. It is reliable. Allow your spine to be relatively straight, but not stiff. Imagine your head is being gently lifted towards the sky by a golden thread, creating space between your vertebrae. Let your hands rest in your lap, one on top of the other, or simply on your thighs. You can let your eyes gently close, or if you prefer, keep them half open, with a soft, unfocused gaze on the floor, a few feet in front of you. Now, bring your attention to the simple sensation of contact. Feel the weight of your body on the chair. The chair is supporting you completely. You do not have to do anything to hold yourself up. Feel the touch of your feet on the floor. Feel the fabric of your clothes against your skin. This is reality. This is the present moment. Your mind will wander. That is what minds do. It will jump onto a passing car of thought. When you notice this has happened, and you will, there is no need for criticism. Simply, gently, and with great kindness to yourself, escort your attention back to your anchor, back to the feeling of your body sitting on the chair. This is the entire practice. Wandering, noticing, and gently returning. Each time you return, it is a small victory of peace. It is a moment of true stopping. The old general, sitting on his stone bench, finally stopped trying to manage his garden. He just sat. He felt the solid stone beneath him. He felt the warmth of the sun on his skin. He noticed the intricate pattern on a beetle's back. He heard the whisper of the wind in the leaves. In stopping, he discovered a world he had never truly seen. In letting go of his old command, he found a new kind of power, a quiet, steady power, rooted in the simple act of being. This is the first step. It is the most important one. It is the art of stopping. After you have learned to sit in the stillness, to simply be present without the need for constant motion, you begin to notice what you have brought with you into this quiet space. You notice the baggage, and perhaps the heaviest bag of all is the one that contains your old name. This is not the name your parents gave you, but the one you built for yourself over 40 or 50 years. It is the name of your profession, your title, your role in the world: manager, teacher, engineer, doctor, carpenter, secretary. It was a good name, a strong name. It defined you. It was the answer to the question so often asked at gatherings. So, what do you do? That question is really a search for a label, a box to put you in, to understand your place in the social order. And you had an answer, a clear, solid, respectable answer. This identity was like a suit of clothes, custom made for you over decades. Each success was a new thread, each promotion, a polished button, each challenge overcome a strengthening of the fabric. You wore it with pride, and rightly so. It protected you, it gave you a sense of purpose, it communicated to the world who you were. But now, the season of your life has changed. The world for which that suit was designed no longer exists in the same way. And yet, you may still be wearing it. You wake up and mentally put on the suit of the manager, but there is no team to manage. You put on the coat of the teacher, but the classroom is empty. The clothing no longer fits the climate of your days. It is heavy, it is cumbersome, and it separates you from the reality of the present moment. This attachment is subtle. We are often unaware of how deeply our sense of self-worth has been woven into this professional identity until it is gone. And in its absence, we feel a strange sense of being a nobody. The world seems to carry on perfectly well without our expertise, without our input, and a quiet, painful thought can arise. Was I ever really that important? This is where a particular kind of suffering, a particular kind of stress is born. In the Buddhist understanding, this is called dukkha. Dukkha is not just overt pain. It is the subtle, pervasive friction that arises when we want reality to be different from what it is. We are holding on to the identity of who we were, while reality presents us with who we are now. The gap between those two is where dukkha lives. It is like holding a map of a city that was torn down 10 years ago and feeling frustrated that the streets are not where they are supposed to be. You can blame the new city. You can complain about the changes. You can fold your arms and insist that your old map is correct, but none of it will help you find your way. The only solution is to acknowledge that the map is outdated and to start looking at the actual landscape in front of you. This clinging to the past shows up in small, human ways. It can be the tendency to dominate conversations with stories from your old job, trying to relive the days of your relevance. It can be a flash of resentment when a younger family member doesn't ask for your expert advice on a problem you could have solved in your sleep. It can be a pang of bitterness when you read about a former colleague's promotion. These feelings are not wrong. They are simply the smoke that rises from the fire of attachment. They are the protest of an ego that feels diminished, that is afraid of being forgotten. We are trying to use an old key on a new door, and the sound of it scraping uselessly against the lock is the sound of our own inner turmoil. There is a famous Zen story that speaks directly to this condition. A great scholar, a university professor who had dedicated his life to studying philosophies and religions, decided to visit a wise old Zen master to inquire about Zen. When he arrived at the master's simple home, the professor immediately began to speak. He spoke of all the books he had read, the complex theories he had formulated, and his own sophisticated interpretations of spiritual matters. He talked on and on, eager to display his vast knowledge. The Zen master listened patiently and then said, "Let us have some tea." He brought out a beautiful, simple teapot and 2 cups. As the professor continued to talk, the master began to pour tea into his visitor's cup. He filled it to the brim, but he did not stop pouring. The hot tea overflowed, spilling out of the cup, running over the saucer and onto the table. The professor, shocked out of his monologue, jumped back and shouted, "Stop! It is full! No more will go in." The master stopped pouring, looked calmly at the professor, and said, "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup? You, like the professor, are holding a full cup. It is full of your past, full of your successes, your failures, your expertise, your identity as a professional. It has served you well, but it is full, and as long as it is full, nothing new can enter. No new wisdom, no new identity, no new way of being can find a place within you. Retirement is the universe's invitation to empty your cup. This is not an act of violence or denial. You are not smashing the cup or pretending it never existed. The practice of emptying is gentle and full of grace. It begins with acknowledging what is in the cup. You look at your career with honesty and gratitude. You say, "Thank you. Thank you for the purpose it gave me. Thank you for the lessons it taught me. Thank you for providing for my family." You honor the person you were and the work you did. And then, with a conscious, deliberate intention, you let it go. You release the need for it to define you any longer. You set it down. You can imagine placing that entire identity, that heavy suit of clothes, that full cup of tea, gently on a shelf. It is a part of your history, a treasured exhibit in the museum of your life, but it is not who you are right now. The moment you begin to empty your cup, you discover a wonderful gift. You give yourself the freedom to be a beginner again. In Zen, this is called Shoshin, or beginner's mind. The mind of an expert is closed. It thinks it knows all the answers. It is resistant to new information that contradicts its established knowledge. There are very few possibilities in the expert's mind, but in the beginner's mind, There are infinite possibilities. A beginner is open, eager, and curious. A beginner is not afraid to say, "I don't know." For decades, you were paid to be the expert. The pressure was on you to have the answers. Now, that pressure is gone. You have been given the profound gift of not knowing. You can learn to paint and not worry about being a great painter. You can approach gardening with the wide-eyed wonder of a child, not the grim determination of an expert. You can listen to your spouse or your children with a beginner's mind, without the assumption that you already know what they are going to say. This is liberation. It is a shift from, "I have lost my identity as an expert," to, "I have gained the freedom to be a curious beginner." So the invitation of this moment is this: look at your own full cup, acknowledge its contents with gratitude, and then, gently, begin to tip it over. Let the old stories, the old titles, the old self-definitions pour out, and see what new and wonderful things begin to flow into the beautiful, empty space you have created. As you begin to empty the cup of your old identity, and as you learn to sit in the quiet stillness of the present moment, you are finally introduced to the primary resident of your inner world. For decades, its constant chatter was masked by the noise of your busy life, by deadlines, meetings, and the hum of traffic. But now, in the silence, its voice is unmistakable. It is loud, it is restless, and it never seems to stop talking. The ancient sages of the East gave this phenomenon a wonderfully accurate name. They called it the monkey mind. Imagine a small, agitated monkey trapped inside your skull. It is never at peace. It leaps from one branch to another without reason or rhythm. It swings from a branch of the distant past, chattering about something you said or did 30 years ago, something no one else remembers, but which it replays with perfect, cringing clarity. Then, in a flash, it swings to a branch of the imagined future, screeching with anxiety about your health, your finances, or what your children might be doing. It will see a small, shiny objector, trivial worry, a minor irritation, and become completely obsessed with it, turning it over and over, examining it from every angle. It will compose angry emails that will never be sent. It will practice arguments that will never happen. It will create to-do lists for a life that no longer requires them. This is the monkey mind, and its restless, chaotic energy is the source of so much of our anxiety and exhaustion. Please know this first. Everyone has a monkey mind. A calm, silent mind is not the natural human state. This inner chaos is not a personal failing. It is not a sign that you are broken. It is simply the nature of an untrained mind, like a wild puppy that has never been taught how to sit. Our first, most natural instinct when confronted with this inner chaos is to fight it. We try to force the monkey to be quiet. We tell ourselves, "Stop thinking so much," or "Just be positive." We try to wrestle the monkey into submission, to pin it down and demand its silence. This is the most common mistake, and it is the reason why so many people give up on any form of meditation or inner work, concluding that it's just not for them. Trying to force your mind to be silent is not only ineffective, it is counterproductive. It actually creates more noise, more stress. Let us try a small experiment. For the next 10 seconds, I want you to do one simple thing. Do not, under any circumstances, think about a large, fluffy, white polar bear. Do not imagine its black nose. Do not imagine its thick, white fur, or its powerful paws walking on the snow. Just for 10 seconds, no polar bears. What happened? Of course, the very first thing that appeared in your mind was a white polar bear. The act of trying to suppress a thought is the very thing that gives it strength. When you wrestle with the monkey always wins, because you are feeding it with the one thing it craves, your attention and your energy. You become entangled in the struggle. You are no longer the calm person trying to quiet your mind. You have become a second, angry monkey fighting with the first one. This creates a new layer of suffering. First, there is the anxiety from the original thought. Second, there is the frustration and self-criticism for not being able to control the thought. This is how we exhaust ourselves, caught in a useless internal war. The path of wisdom offers a radically different approach. Instead of fighting the monkey, we simply step back and observe it. We change our position. We are no longer the monkey, caught in the frantic swinging from branch to branch. We become the calm, curious zookeeper, standing outside the enclosure, simply watching the monkey's antics with a compassionate, non-judgmental gaze. We cultivate the art of noticing. When a thought arises, we don't grab onto it. We don't analyze its meaning or follow its storyline. We simply label it, gently and silently. A memory of a past failure arises. We note, remembering. A wave of anxiety about a future doctor's appointment appears. We note, worrying. A plan to rearrange the garage pops into your head. Planning. A critical thought about yourself emerges. Judging. This simple act of labeling is incredibly powerful. It creates a space between you and the thought. In that space is freedom. When you say, "I am anxious," you have become the anxiety. Your entire being is identified with that feeling. But when you can say, "I notice the feeling of anxiety is present," you are no longer the feeling. You are the one who is noticing the feeling. This is the crucial difference between being caught in the storm and watching the storm from a safe, sheltered window. This leads to one of the most liberating insights of the contemplative path. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are events in your consciousness. They are not the totality of who you are. The most powerful metaphor for this is that of the sky and the clouds. Your true nature, your core consciousness, is like the vast, open blue sky. It is boundless, clear, and always at peace. Your thoughts, emotions, and sensations are like the clouds that drift through the sky. Sometimes the clouds are white and fluffy. Sometimes they are dark and menacing. They can be thick and heavy, completely obscuring the blue of the sky for a time. But they can never, ever harm or stain the sky itself. The sky remains untouched. We spend most of our lives believing we are the clouds, identifying with every fleeting mood and thought, getting tossed about by the weather of our own minds. The practice of observation is the practice of remembering that you are the sky. You learn to rest in your sky-like nature, allowing the clouds to come and go without resistance. But how do we do this, practically, when the monkey is screeching so loudly? There is another beautiful parable that shows us the way. A man wanted to tame a wild monkey. He knew that if he beat it, the monkey would only become more fearful and aggressive. If he chained it up too tightly, it would lose its spirit. So he did something clever. He took a tall, sturdy pole and planted it firmly in the middle of a large field. He then tied the monkey to the pole with a long rope. At first, the monkey was frantic. It ran to the end of the rope in every direction, trying to escape. It screeched and pulled and fought against the restraint. But the pole held firm. After days of this, exhausted, the monkey finally realized it could not escape. It began to explore the area closer to the pole. Eventually, it grew tired of its struggle and simply sat down at the base of the pole to rest. The pole became its point of reference, its source of stability. It could still climb the pole, run around it, and sleep at its base. But it learned to live peacefully within the radius of the rope. That agitated monkey is your mind. And that sturdy pole, your anchor, is your breath. We will explore this more deeply, but the secret to taming the monkey mind is not to fight it, but to give it a simple, reliable task. The task is to pay attention to the feeling of the breath coming in and out of the body. When you sit down and your mind is racing, you don't command it to be silent. You gently, kindly, Ask it to hold on to the breath. Just feel this one breath. You tell it. And now this one. The mind will still run to the end of its rope. It will still get distracted by memories and worries. But every time you notice it has wandered, you gently and patiently lead it back to the pole, back to the breath. You are not trying to get rid of the monkey. You are simply taming it with patience and compassion. The goal is not a perfectly silent mind, but a spacious mind, a mind in which you are no longer the frantic monkey, but the calm, wise zookeeper who knows that peace is found not in struggle, but in gentle, steady observation. We have spoken of the monkey mind, that restless, chattering resident of our inner world. We have learned that to fight it is to lose, and that the path to peace lies in gentle observation. We have heard the parable of the wild monkey, and how a wise person tamed it not with force, but by giving it a sturdy pole to hold on to. For us, that pole, that anchor in the swirling chaos of the mind, is the breath. It is the most simple, reliable, and portable tool we possess. It is with us from the moment of our birth to the moment of our death. It costs nothing, it requires no special equipment, and it is the direct, unshakable gateway to the peace of the present moment. Now, we will learn how to rest our attention upon this anchor, how to befriend our own breathing. Let us begin this practice together. Find a posture that is comfortable for you. You can be sitting in a chair with your feet flat on the floor and your spine upright but not stiff. You can be sitting on a cushion on the floor. The important thing is to create a posture of relaxed dignity. Let your hands rest easily in your lap or on your knees. Allow your eyes to gently close, or if you feel sleepy, you can keep them half open with a soft gaze toward the floor. Now, bring your attention, your gentle, curious awareness, to the fact that you are breathing. Do not try to change your breathing in any way. You are not trying to take a deep breath or a special kind of breath. You are simply noticing the breath as it is. The body knows how to breathe. It has been doing so your entire life, without any help from your conscious mind. Your only task is to become the silent witness to this natural, rhythmic miracle. To help you focus, you can choose one spot on your body to rest your attention. For many people, the tip of the nostrils is a good place. Just rest your awareness there and feel the subtle sensations. Feel the slight coolness of the air as it enters your nostrils on the in-breath, and feel the slight warmth of the air as it leaves your nostrils on the out-breath. Cool air coming in, warm air going out. Just this. There is nothing else you need to do. Perhaps you find it easier to notice the breath in your body. You can rest your attention on the rising and falling of your chest, or the gentle expansion and contraction of your abdomen. Place a hand on your belly if it helps. Feel the gentle rise on the in-breath and the gentle fall on the out-breath. Rise, fall. Your mind will wander. This is not a sign of failure. It is simply what minds do. It is the monkey, out of habit, letting go of the pole and swinging to a branch. When you notice that your mind has wandered, whether it has been gone for a second or for 5 minutes, the moment you notice is a moment of pure mindfulness. In that moment, you have woken up. So, without any judgment or criticism, without scolding yourself, you very gently and kindly escort your attention back to the pole, back to the anchor, back to the simple, physical sensation of this one breath, in, out. You may have to do this 100 times in a 10-minute period. That is the practice. The practice is not about having a perfectly still mind. The practice is in the gentle, patient, persistent returning. Each return is a victory of peace over distraction. The breath is a remarkable thing. It is the bridge that connects your inner world and the outer world. It is the nexus point between your mind and your body. Your mind can be lost 1,000,000 miles away, tangled in a memory from the past or a worry about the future. But your breath is always here. It is always now. So when your mind is lost in the non-real world of thought, the instruction to return to the breath immediately brings it back to the undeniable reality of your physical body in this present moment. It yokes the mind and body together, uniting them in the here and now. The wandering mind is like a kite whose string has been broken, tossed about by every gust of wind. Gently returning your attention to the breath is like catching hold of that string again, bringing the kite back under your gentle guidance. This is an act of profound kindness to yourself. You are not forcing or punishing. You are gently guiding your own scattered awareness back home, over and over again. There is a profound teaching embedded in this simple act. Your mind lives almost exclusively in two places that do not exist: the past, which is only a collection of memories, and the future, which is only a collection of projections. The only time that is ever real, the only time you can ever feel or act or live, is right now, the present moment. And the breath is our most faithful guide to this reality. The breath can only happen now. You cannot breathe yesterday's breath, and you cannot breathe tomorrow's breath. You can only breathe this one. And so, to be fully with the breath is to be fully alive in the only moment that ever truly exists. Furthermore, every single breath is a new beginning. Every exhalation is a chance to let go. You can imagine that with every out-breath, you are releasing the tension in your body, the worries in your mind, the regrets of the past. You are emptying yourself, and with every in-breath, you are receiving the gift of a new moment, a fresh start. It is a cleansing, a renewal that happens 20,000 times a day. Seen in this light, the practice is not a chore. It is a continuous opportunity to release what burdens you and to welcome what nourishes you. The past is gone. The future is a phantom. Only this breath, right now, is real. Rest in it. This powerful practice is not just for the meditation cushion. You can carry this anchor with you into every moment of your day. The true gift is in integrating it into the fabric of your life. When you feel a wave of anxiety rising, perhaps you read a troubling news headline, or you are waiting for a phone call that is your signal. Before you react, before you get swept away by the story in your mind, just stop everything, and consciously take 3 breaths. Feel the first breath come all the way in and all the way out. Feel the second breath, perhaps a little deeper, a little calmer, and feel the third. This simple act, this sacred pause, is a circuit breaker for anxiety. It creates a space between the event and your reaction to it. In that space, you reclaim your power. You move from being a reactor to being a responder. You can choose a wiser, calmer way forward. There is an old story about a master carpenter, famous throughout the land for his flawless work. His hand was so steady, his eye so true, that his joints fit together perfectly without glue or nails. A young apprentice, desperate to learn his secret, watched him for months. He noticed something peculiar. Just before making a crucial, difficult cut, the old master would pause. He would put down his other tools, stand quietly before the piece of wood, and take one single, conscious breath. Only then would he pick up his saw and make the cut. One day, the apprentice gathered his courage and asked the master why he did this. The master smiled and said, "In a busy workshop, the mind becomes scattered. It thinks of the last cut, and it worries about the next one. The hand can become unsteady. But in that one breath, everything comes home. The mind stops chattering. The body becomes still. My eye, my hand, and the wood become one single thing. There is only the cut happening right now. That one breath brings all of the scattered pieces of myself back to this single perfect moment. This is the secret we are learning, whether we are making a crucial cut in wood or simply navigating a difficult moment in our day. The breath is what brings us home. It is the anchor of the present moment. Return to it, and you will always find your center. As you continue the practice of resting with your breath, you begin to notice something remarkable. You notice that nothing is ever truly still. Even in the deepest quiet, there is a subtle current of sensation, a constant flow. A slight itch appears on your cheek, and then it vanishes. A sound arises in the distance, grows louder, and then fades away. A feeling of warmth in your hands gives way to a feeling of coolness. Within the temple of your own body, you discover a fundamental truth of the universe. Everything flows. Nothing is permanent. This is the great teaching of impermanence, or anicca in the ancient Pali language. We spend most of our lives behaving as if life were a rock. We want things to be solid, stable, and predictable. We want our happiness to be a permanent state, our health to be a constant, our relationships to be unchanging, and our sense of self to be a solid, monolithic statue. We build our lives on this assumption, this deep desire for permanence. But reality is not a rock. Reality is a river. It is a ceaseless, dynamic, and unstoppable flow of change. The body you have today is not the body you had 7 years ago. Most of its cells have been replaced. The thoughts you are thinking now are not the thoughts you were thinking an hour ago. The world outside your window is in a constant state of flux. The seasons turn, clouds drift across the sky, civilizations rise and fall. Nothing is exempt from this law. It is the one, single constant in the universe. Everything changes. Your own life is the greatest testament to this truth. For 30, 40, or 50 years, your career was a central defining reality. It may have felt like a solid, permanent fixture, a mountain that defined the landscape of your existence. But the mountain, too, was a part of the flow. The time came for that chapter to end. Its impermanent nature was revealed. This is not a tragedy. It is not a sign of failure. It is simply the universe teaching you its most profound lesson. Your health, too, is part of this river. Perhaps for many years, you took it for granted, a reliable vehicle that never gave you much trouble. But as time passes, the body reminds us of its fluid nature. An ache appears here, a stiffness there. Our energy levels ebb and flow. This is not the body failing you. This is the body speaking the language of impermanence, reminding you that it, too, is a process, not a possession. In this light, retirement itself can be seen not as an ending, but as a graduation into a masterclass on impermanence. It is the moment in life where the illusions of permanence in our titles, our roles, our daily routines are most clearly and powerfully stripped away, leaving us standing on the riverbank, face to face with the truth of the flow. So, if change is natural and constant, where does our suffering, our anxiety, and our grief come from? It does not come from the change itself. It comes from our resistance to the change. It arises from our desperate attempts to freeze the river. Imagine standing in the middle of a flowing stream and trying to stop the water with your bare hands. You would push against the current, your muscles straining, your heart pounding. You would grow exhausted, frustrated, and eventually be overwhelmed. The river is not trying to hurt you. It is simply flowing, as is its nature. Your struggle, your suffering, comes entirely from your futile effort to make it do something other than what it does. This is what we do in our minds. When we lose something, we cherish our job, our youth, a loved one. We suffer because we are mentally pushing against the flow of reality. We are consumed by thoughts of, it shouldn't be this way. We cling to memories of the past, trying to relive a moment that has already been carried downstream. We are tormented by fear of the future, trying to build a dam against changes that have not yet even occurred. This resistance is the very definition of stress. It is a war against reality, a war we can never win. The wisdom of impermanence offers us a different way. It invites us to stop fighting the river. It suggests that instead of trying to control the uncontrollable, we can learn to flow with it. We can learn to be skillful sailors on the waters of our life, using the currents of change to guide us rather than trying to block them. The great Greek philosopher Heraclitus, who lived around the same time as the Buddha, famously said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice." This simple phrase holds a universe of wisdom. It has two profound meanings. First, the river is never the same. From one moment to the next, new water has flowed in. The banks may have shifted slightly, the currents have changed. It is a different river. The second meaning is even deeper. The man is never the same. The man who steps into the river a second time is older, even if only by a few seconds. He has new thoughts, new experiences. Billions of cells in his body have died and been born anew. He is a different man. This is a perfect metaphor for our relationship with our own past. We look back at our career, at our younger self, at a cherished period of our life, and we wish we could step back into that river, but we cannot. That river is gone. And just as importantly, we, the person standing on the bank today, are also different. To yearn for the past is to deny the reality of who we are now and the nature of the river of time. The wisdom here is to turn our gaze away from the river that was and to look with fresh eyes at the river that is. The river of your life, right now, in this new phase, has its own unique beauty, its own currents, its own hidden depths. The invitation is to be brave enough to step into this water, to feel the reality of this present moment. How do we train ourselves to be more comfortable with this constant flow? We can start by practicing the observation of impermanence in the small, non-threatening events of our daily lives. This is a form of mindfulness. Take a flower in your garden or in a vase. Look at it each day. Notice it as a tight, closed bud. Watch it as it begins to unfurl, revealing its color and shape. Witness the peak of its bloom in its full, vibrant glory. And then continue to watch, without judgment, as the petals begin to soften, to wilt, to fade, and finally to fall. See this entire arc not as a story of life, followed by a tragedy of death, but as one single, beautiful, continuous process of change. Or take a simple cup of hot tea. Instead of drinking it distractedly, make it a meditation on impermanence. Feel the intense warmth of the cup in your hands at first. Take a sip and notice the heat. Then, just sit with it. Moment by moment, feel the heat gradually dissipating. Notice the point where it becomes lukewarm and then cool. You are observing impermanence in a cup. Do not label it good when hot and bad when cold. Simply witness the natural, lawful process of change. You can do this with sounds, noticing how they arise, exist for a moment, and then disappear. You can do this with the sunlight, watching how it moves across the floor of your room throughout the day. By training our minds to see and accept the truth of impermanent nature in these small, gentle ways, we build the inner strength and wisdom to face the larger, more challenging changes in our lives, not with fear and resistance, but with grace, acceptance, and a profound sense of peace. The practice of observing impermanence in a flower or a cup of tea is a gentle training for the mind. It prepares us to face the much larger, more painful currents of change that flow through every human life. For the river of time does not only carry away moments of neutral observation, it carries away the things we hold most dear. It carries away our roles, our physical strength, and the people we love. Loss is the deepest and most personal encounter we have with the law of impermanence. And when it visits us, the philosophical understanding of change can feel cold and distant, a fragile shelter in a raging storm. When we are in the grip of grief, our pain feels utterly unique, utterly isolating. We inhabit a universe of one. Whether it is the grief for a career that defined us for a lifetime, now vanished into memory, the grief for the vibrant, healthy body we once took for granted, now reminding us of its fragility with every ache and pain, or the most profound grief of all, the loss of a beloved partner, a family member, or a cherished friend, the feeling is the same. It is a feeling of amputation. A vital part of our world, a part of ourselves, has been taken, and we are left alone in the echoing silence of its absence. Our mind becomes a closed loop, endlessly replaying scenes from the past, tormenting itself with two of suffering's most cruel words. If only I had done something differently. If only I had more time. This private universe of pain is a lonely place. We look out at the world and see others going about their lives, laughing, talking, planning for the future, and it can feel like a deep betrayal. How can the world continue when ours has stopped? We feel fundamentally separate, marked by a sorrow that no one else can possibly understand. This feeling of radical isolation is the very heart of grief's torment. The wisdom traditions of the East acknowledge this profound pain with immense compassion. They do not dismiss it or offer easy platitudes. Instead, they offer us stories, parables that act as mirrors, allowing us to see our own sorrow in a new light. And perhaps no story speaks more directly to the heart of grief and the path toward its healing than the ancient story of a woman named Kisa Gotami. Kisa Gotami lived a life that, for a time, was filled with a singular, brilliant joy. After a difficult youth, she had married and given birth to a beautiful baby boy. This child became the sun in her sky, the center of her universe. Her entire identity, her every waking thought, was wrapped up in her love for him. She would watch him sleep, her heart overflowing with a fierce, protective tenderness. She would dream of his future, of the man he would become. In him, she had finally found her purpose, her happiness. Then, one day, as the child was just beginning to walk, he fell ill with a sudden, swift sickness. And before she could fully comprehend what was happening, he died in her arms. Kisa Gotami's mind could not accept it. This reality was too monstrous, too impossible to bear. She refused to believe her son was dead. Clutching his small, cold body to her chest, she began a frantic journey. She went to her neighbors, her eyes wild with a hope born of desperation, begging them for medicine that could cure her son. They looked at her with pity, shaking their heads sadly. "The boy is dead, Gotami," they would say gently. "There is no medicine for this." But she would not listen. To her, their words were nonsense. She saw their pity as a lack of understanding. She ran to the most famous physicians in the city, pleading with them, offering them everything she had. They, too, confirmed the terrible truth. Her son was gone. Consumed by a grief so profound it appeared to others as madness, she wandered the streets, the small, still body of her child held tightly against her heart, asking every person she met if they knew of a cure. Finally, a wise old man, seeing the depth of her unbreakable attachment and sorrow, took pity on her. He told her, "I cannot give you medicine for your son, but I know of a physician who can. Go to the enlightened one, the Buddha. He is staying in the grove just outside the city. He will have a cure for you." A surge of desperate hope flooded Kisa Gotami's heart. She had heard of this great teacher. Surely, if anyone could perform a miracle, it was him. She ran, disheveled and weeping, to the place where the Buddha was teaching. She burst through the crowd of his calm, seated disciples and fell at his feet, laying the body of her son before him. "Oh, enlightened one," she cried, "they say you are the great physician. Please, give me the medicine that will restore my son's life." The crowd murmured, disturbed by this raw display of grief. They expected the Buddha to gently tell her the truth, to explain the nature of death. But the Buddha did not do that. He looked at Kisa Gotami, and his gaze was not one of pity, but of boundless, unshakable compassion. He saw not a madwoman, but a heart broken by loss. And he met her exactly where she was, within her desperate hope. "Yes, I can make a medicine for your son," he said, his voice calm and clear. Kisa Gotami's heart leaped. "But to make this medicine," he continued, I require a special ingredient. You must go back into the city, and you must bring me a single, small mustard seed. This seemed like an easy task. Mustard seeds were in every home. But, the Buddha added, his voice gentle but firm, the mustard seed must come from a house where no one, not a child, not a parent, not a spouse, not even a servanthus, ever died. Filled with a renewed sense of purpose, Kisa Gotami thanked the Buddha and ran back towards the city gates. The task seemed simple enough. She would have the seed and be back before nightfall, and her son would be restored to her. She knocked on the door of the first large house she saw. A kind woman answered. "Can you spare a mustard seed for a special medicine?" Kisa Gotami asked, her voice trembling with hope. "Of course," the woman replied, turning to go into her home. "Wait," Kisa Gotami said, remembering the Buddha's instruction. "Has anyone in this house ever died?" The woman's bright smile faded. She looked at Kisa Gotami with sad, knowing eyes. "Oh, my dear," she said softly, "the living are few, but the dead are many. Just last year, my beloved husband passed away in this very room. Kisa Gotami left the house. Her initial optimism slightly dimmed. She went to the next house, a more modest dwelling. A man came to the door. Again, she asked her question. "We have plenty of mustard seeds," the man said. "But my mother, who lived with us, died this past winter." She went to a third house, and a fourth, and a fifth. The story was the same everywhere. One family had lost a child to fever. Another had lost a father to old age. Another had lost a sister in childbirth. Every door she knocked on, every person she spoke to, had a story of loss. They were all members of a club she never knew existed. As the sun began to set, Kisa Gotami had walked through the entire city, and she had not found her mustard seed. She sat down by the side of the road, weary in body and spirit. She looked back at the city and saw the lights beginning to flicker on in the houses, one by one. They flickered for a while, and then, one by one, they were extinguished. And in that moment, watching the lights, she finally understood. The lives of people flicker and are extinguished. This is the law. This is the nature of things. Her own profound sorrow, which had felt so singular, so monstrously unique, was in fact the shared sorrow of all humanity. Her grief was not a wall that separated her from others. It was the very thread that connected her to everyone she had spoken to that day. A thought arose in her mind, clear and sharp. How selfish I have been in my grief. In focusing only on her own pain, she had been blind to the universal nature of suffering. With this realization, the frantic, desperate clinging in her heart began to soften. She looked down at the small body of her son, and for the first time, she saw him not as something she had lost, but as a being who had followed the same universal law as everyone else. With a heart full of a new, sober peace, she carried him to the charnel ground and performed the last rites. She had let him go. She then returned to the Buddha. "Did you bring the mustard seed?" he asked her kindly. "The work of the mustard seed is done, my lord," she replied, her voice quiet but steady. "I have seen the truth. I understand. This story is the Buddha's masterclass in healing grief. Let us look at the medicine he offered. He did not give Kisa Gotami a lecture on impermanence. He knew that in her state of raw pain, such philosophical truths would be meaningless. Instead, he gave her a task, a quest. He honored her desire to do something, to take action, and channeled that frantic energy into a journey of discovery. He knew that wisdom which is earned through direct experience is infinitely more powerful than wisdom which is merely told. He sent her on a journey not to find a magical seed, but to find the truth for herself, written in the heart of every home she visited. And what was that truth? It was the antidote to the terrible isolation of her grief. Her journey transformed her pain from a personal tragedy into a universal experience. Before her quest, her thought was, "My son is dead." After, her understanding was, "All beings are subject to death." This sorrow I feel is the sorrow of the world. This shift in perspective is the key. When you grieve the loss of your career, it feels intensely personal. But if you were to go on a quest, you would find that every person who has ever retired has, in their own way, had to navigate the loss of a role, the letting go of an identity. When you feel the pain of an aging body, it feels like a private betrayal. But the truth is that every single living being experiences the wax and wane of physical life. Your pain is not a sign of your isolation. It is the emblem of your membership in the human family. From this understanding of shared suffering, something beautiful can be born: compassion. As long as Kisa Gautami was locked in her own pain, her heart was closed. But when she heard the stories of others, when she saw their quiet, enduring grief, her heart began to open. Her self-pity was transformed into empathy. Her own loss became a bridge that connected her to the hearts of all others. This is the alchemical possibility within our own grief. Our deepest wounds can become the source of our greatest compassion. When we have known loss, we can sit with another who is grieving, not with easy answers or platitudes, but with the quiet, powerful understanding of a shared experience. Our pain can become our gift to the world. So, let us now undertake our own mustard seed quest, not with our feet, but in our minds. Bring to your awareness a loss that you are carrying. Do not choose the most overwhelming one if it feels too raw. Perhaps it is the loss of your old routine, the loss of a friendship, or the feeling of physical limitation. Allow yourself to feel the shape of that loss in your body, a tightness, a hollowness, an ache. Do not fight it. Just acknowledge its presence, as the Buddha acknowledged Kisa Gautami's pain. Now, begin your mental journey. Imagine yourself going from person to person, the people you know, and strangers on the street. But your question is this: have you ever known loss? Have you ever had something you cherished slip through your fingers? Have you ever had a dream that did not come true? Have you ever felt the pain of seeing your body change in ways you did not want? Have you ever said a final goodbye to someone you loved? What do you find? You find that there is not a single human being who cannot answer yes to one of these questions. The successful CEO, the young barista, the laughing child, the stern-faced politician, every one of them carries a story of loss inside them, their mustard seed story. As you continue this inner journey, feel the walls of your own personal sorrow begin to become porous. Feel the truth that your pain does not separate you from others. It unites you. It is the common ground upon which all of humanity walks. Your grief is not a mark of shame or failure. It is a testament to your ability to love, to connect, to invest your heart in this fleeting, beautiful world. Let this realization soften the hard edges of your pain. Let it be a balm on your wounds. And now, come back to your anchor. Come back to your breath. Let this new understanding infuse your breathing. As you breathe in, you can breathe in with the full, honest acknowledgement of your own personal pain, your own story of loss. And as you breathe out, you can breathe out with the wish that all other beings who have ever felt this same pain may be free from their suffering. Breathe in for yourself. Breathe out for everyone. In this way, your own breath becomes a practice of compassion. It becomes a quiet, rhythmic continuation of Kisa Gautami's journey, a journey that leads from the dark, narrow prison of personal grief into the wide, open landscape of shared humanity and the profound peace of acceptance. Having journeyed through the landscapes of impermanence and loss, having seen how even the most solid-seeming aspects of our lives are part of a ceaseless flow, we arrive at the most intimate and challenging territory of all. We turn the lens of our inquiry inward. We have let go of the identity of our job. We have acknowledged the changing nature of our body. We have seen that our thoughts and emotions are like clouds passing in the sky. This begs a fundamental question, the one that sits at the very heart of the human quest. Who, then, am I? Who is this being that is experiencing all of this? We instinctively feel that there is a solid, continuous me at the center of our lives, a thinker of the thoughts, a feeler of the feelings, a permanent resident in the house of the body. We call this me by our name, and we spend our entire lives protecting it, promoting it, and defending its honor. But the wisdom of the contemplative path asks us to do something radical. It asks us to look for this self, to see if we can actually find it. Let us begin this investigation gently. Are you your body? It seems plausible at first, but which body? The body of a 5-year-old child? The body of a 30-year-old at the peak of their career? The body you have today? As we have seen, the body is a process, a river of change, with cells constantly dying and being replaced. Furthermore, we say, I have a body, or my body feels tired. This language implies a relationship between an owner and a possession. If you have a body, then you cannot be your body. There must be an I that does the having. So, perhaps you are your mind. Are you your thoughts? We have already met the monkey mind, that chaotic chatter of ideas, memories, and plans. But you are the one who is aware of these thoughts. You can watch them arise and pass away. Since you can observe your thoughts, you cannot be them. The watcher is not the thing being watched. What about your emotions? Are you your joy, your sadness, your anger? Emotions, too, are transient. They are like weather patterns that move through you. If you were your anger, you would be angry every moment of every day. If you were your joy, you would never feel sorrow. These feelings are visitors, not the permanent resident. So, if you are not your body, not your thoughts, and not your emotions, what is left? A name, a personal history. These are just stories, labels we use for convenience. They are useful, but they are not the living, breathing essence of who you are. The more we search for a solid, independent, unchanging self, the more it seems to elude our grasp. This very investigation lies at the heart of one of the most famous dialogues in Buddhist literature between a Greek king named Milinda and a humble Buddhist monk named Nagasena. King Milinda was a sharp, logical ruler, a man of the world, and he was skeptical of the subtle teachings of the East. He went to challenge Nagasena, to test his wisdom. After the initial greetings, the king asked the monk for his name. I am known as Nagasena, Your Majesty, the monk replied. However, Nagasena is only a designation, a convenient name. There is no permanent person or soul to be found here. The king, a skilled debater, saw an opening. Venerable sir, he said with a wry smile, if there is no person, then who is it that wears these robes and eats the food you are given? Who is it that meditates and studies? If I were to have you killed, there would be no murder, as there is no one to kill. You said you arrived by chariot. Where is this chariot? The king then began to deconstruct the chariot with ruthless logic. He pointed to it and asked, is the pole of the chariot the chariot? No, Your Majesty, Nagasena replied. Are the wheels the chariot? No, Your Majesty. Is the axle, the frame, the ropes, the yoke? To each question, Nagasena calmly answered, no, Your Majesty. The king then declared triumphantly, then there is no such thing as a chariot. You are speaking a falsehood. Henceforth, at this point, Nagasena, who had been listening patiently, smiled gently and turned the king's own logic back on him. Your Majesty, he said, you are a noble king, raised in luxury. How did you arrive here today? On foot or by vehicle? I came by chariot, the king replied, a bit impatiently. Then please, Your Majesty, show me the chariot, Nagasena said. Is the pole the chariot? The king admitted it was not. Are the wheels the chariot? Nagasena continued, echoing the king's own questions. One by one, he dissected the chariot until the king had to concede that none of the individual parts could be called the chariot. Nagasena then concluded, Your Majesty, I cannot see the chariot. I see only a collection of parts. Is this word chariot just a sound, then, with no meaning? The king was silent, realizing he was caught in his own trap. Nagasena then delivered the teaching. Your Majesty, just as the word chariot is a convenient designation we give to a collection of parts assembled in a particular way, so the name Nagasena is a convenient designation for this collection of physical and mental processes. We refer to the combination of the body, feelings, perceptions, mental habits, and consciousness as a person. But when we investigate with wisdom, we find no single, unchanging, independent self who is in charge. We find only an interdependent, ever-changing process. This collection of processes that we mistake for a solid self is known in Buddhism as the 5 aggregates, or the 5 heaps. Let us look at them simply. The first is form. This is the physical stuff, your body, your bones, your flesh, your sense organs. It is the hardware. The second is feeling. This is the raw data that comes in through your senses, which your mind immediately labels as either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. The warmth of the sun on your skin is pleasant. The sound of a siren is unpleasant. The feeling of your clothes on your body is, for the most part, neutral. The third is perception. This is the mind's labeling function. It takes the raw feeling and gives it a name and a context. It recognizes sunshine, siren, clothing. It's the faculty that creates our conceptual world. The fourth is mental formations. This is a large and important category. It includes all our habits, our biases, our opinions, our intentions, our moods, our desires and aversions. This is the activity of the monkey mind, the momentum of our past conditioning. It is the source of our actions. The fifth is consciousness. This is the fundamental quality of awareness itself. It is the light that illuminates the other 4 aggregates, allowing them to be known. It is the space in which form, feeling, perception, and mental formations arise and pass away. What we call I, me, or myself is simply the convenient name for the dynamic, flowing, interdependent dance of these 5 processes. It is more like a team than a single entity. It is more like a river than a rock. It is more like a chariot than a single solid thing. At first, this idea of no self or anatta can feel frightening. It can sound like annihilation, like nothing matters. But the sages who realized this truth found it to be the exact opposite. They found it to be the gateway to profound liberation and fearlessness. When you believe you have a solid, separate self, you must spend an enormous amount of energy protecting and defending it. You worry about your reputation. You feel hurt when your ego is bruised. You are afraid of being insulted or ignored. You are in a constant state of vigilance. But when you see through this illusion, when you realize that the self is just a temporary, fluid process, what is there to defend? The need to be right, the sting of criticism, the fear of failure, all of these begin to lose their power. You become less fragile, more resilient, more at ease in the world. The ultimate fear for the separate self is the fear of death. It is the fear of its own annihilation. But if the self is not a thing, but a process, what is there to be annihilated? The 5 aggregates, which have been flowing together for a lifetime, will simply disassemble and continue in new forms. The river does not die when it reaches the ocean. It simply merges with a larger body of water. Realizing this does not mean you will not die. It means you can begin to release the fear of dying, which poisons so much of our life. Finally, the illusion of a separate self is what creates the feeling of loneliness. It erects a wall between me in here and you out there. When we see that we are all just interdependent processes, woven from the same threads of form, feeling, perception, and consciousness, the wall becomes transparent. We recognize our deep connection with all of life. My happiness is not separate from your happiness. Your suffering is not separate from my suffering. This understanding is the fertile ground from which true compassion grows. The empty house, when investigated, reveals no permanent owner, but realizing this does not destroy the house. It simply allows you to see it as it truly is, a beautiful, interdependent co-arising of parts. And seeing this, you can finally relax and live in it with a spacious, fearless wisdom, having explored the impermanent, ever-flowing nature of life and the elusive, process-like nature of the self. We arrive at the first and most foundational teaching that the Buddha offered after his enlightenment. It is a teaching that is often misunderstood, a truth that can sound pessimistic if not heard with a wise and open heart. This is the truth of dukkha. The word is often translated from the ancient Pali language simply as suffering. And so, many come to believe that the core message of Buddhism is that life is suffering, a bleak and hopeless pronouncement. But this is a profound misunderstanding of the depth and nuance of the Buddha's insight. The word dukkha does not just mean overt pain and misery. It carries a much subtler range of meanings. Imagine a chariot wheel that is not fitted quite right on its axle. As it turns, there is a constant grinding, a subtle friction, a persistent sense of being slightly off-kilter. The journey is not smooth. This is a more accurate feeling of dukkha. It is the pervasive sense of dissatisfaction, the low-grade stress, the fundamental unease that runs like a thread through much of our lives. It is the friction that arises from our constant wanting, our constant craving for reality to be other than it is. Dukkha certainly includes the obvious forms of suffering, the pain of sickness, the sorrow of old age, the grief of losing a loved one. These are undeniable, but it also includes more subtle forms. It includes the stress that comes from getting exactly what you want and then living in constant fear of losing it. It includes the frustration of not getting what you want, the endless cycle of striving and disappointment. And it includes the vague existential unease of a life lived on the surface, a life that feels somehow incomplete, even when everything on the outside seems to be fine. The Buddha was not a pessimist. He was a master physician of the human spirit, and like any great doctor, his first step was not to offer false hope, but to make a clear, honest, and courageous diagnosis of the condition. He named the disease. He named it dukkha, and only by looking this condition squarely in the face can we begin to understand its cause and ultimately find its cure. To help us understand the nature of this disease, the Buddha offered a simple, brilliant parable. It is the parable of the two arrows. Imagine a person walking through a forest. Suddenly, and without warning, they are struck by an arrow. This causes immediate, sharp, physical pain. The wound is real. The pain is unavoidable. This, the Buddha said, is the first arrow. Now, imagine the person's reaction. They cry out, "Why me? Of all the people in the world, why did this have to happen to me? This is a disaster. What if the arrowhead was poisoned? I'm surely going to die. My life is ruined. This is so unfair." As they spiral into this narrative of fear, anger, resentment, and self-pity, their heart races, their body tenses, and their mental anguish becomes 1,000 times more painful than the physical wound itself. This entire cascade of mental and emotional reaction, the Buddha said, is the second arrow. It is an arrow that we shoot at ourselves. The Buddha's teaching was this: in life, we cannot always avoid the first arrow. As long as we are in this human form, we will experience the inevitable pains of existence. Sickness will visit us. People we love will leave us. Our bodies will age and weaken. We will face disappointment, criticism, and loss. These are the first arrows of life. They are, to a large extent, outside of our control. They are the given circumstances of the human condition. An unwise person, the Buddha explained, gets struck by a first arrow, and immediately out of habit, shoots themselves with a second one, and then often a third, of shame for feeling the way they do, and a fourth, of anger at someone else for their predicament. Their suffering is multiplied tenfold, not by the original event, but by their own reaction to it. A wise person, however, when struck by the first arrow, does something different. They feel the sharp, clear pain of the initial wound. They do not deny it or pretend it isn't there, but they do not reach into their quiver for a second arrow. They do not spin a story of blame, fear, or self-pity. They simply breathe, and they say to themselves, "A painful thing has happened. Now, how do I wisely tend to this first wound?" This is one of the most liberating teachings ever offered to humanity. It separates pain from suffering. Pain is the unavoidable reality of the first arrow. Suffering is the optional, self-inflicted anguish of the second. Much of what we call suffering in our lives is, in fact, the pain of the second, third, and fourth arrows that we repeatedly shoot into ourselves. Let us bring this teaching into the reality of our own lives, particularly in this chapter of retirement. Let's look at how we unknowingly shoot ourselves with second arrows. The first arrow strikes. You visit the doctor, and he gives you a diagnosis of a chronic condition, like arthritis or high blood pressure. The news is unwelcome. There is a feeling of fear, of disappointment. This is the pain of the first arrow. It is real. Then, the mind begins its work. The second arrows start to fly. My life as I knew it is over. I'm just going to get weaker and weaker. I will become a burden on my family. It's not fair. My friend of the same age is perfectly healthy. Why me? I should have eaten better. I should have exercised more. This narrative, this story of catastrophe and regret, is the second arrow. It is this story that will keep you awake at night, long after the initial shock of the diagnosis has passed. Here is another example. The first arrow. Your adult children, busy with their own careers and families, haven't called in 2 weeks. You feel a pang of loneliness, a sadness in your heart. This is the first arrow. It is a clean, simple pain. But then comes the volley of second arrows. They must not love me anymore. After everything I did for them, this is the thanks I get. They are so ungrateful. They've completely forgotten about me. I'm destined to die old and alone. This terrifying story of abandonment and resentment is the second arrow. It transforms a simple pang of loneliness into a deep and abiding source of misery. The original pain might have lasted a few minutes, but the story can torment you for days, weeks, or even years. We do this with small things too. First arrow. You try to learn a new computer skill, and it feels frustrating and difficult. Second arrow. I'm just too old for this. My mind isn't sharp anymore. I'm becoming useless. I'm falling behind. End quote. The path to peace lies in developing the wisdom to recognize the difference between the first and second arrows, and the mindfulness to create a space before we shoot the second one. This is the practice of the sacred pause. When a first arrow strikes a painful sensation in the body, a difficult emotion, an unwelcome piece of news, our habitual tendency is to react instantly, to launch the story. The practice is to train ourselves to do the opposite. We pause, we take a breath, and we turn our attention directly and with kindness to the raw sensation of the first arrow. Can you just be with the physical feeling of pain without the mental story of this is a catastrophe? Can you feel the heat of anger in your body without launching into the narrative of blame and righteousness? Can you feel the hollow ache of loneliness in your chest without immediately creating the story of being unloved and forgotten? This is not about suppressing or denying your feelings. It is the exact opposite. It is about feeling the first arrow so fully, so cleanly, that there is no room left for the second one to take root. When you are willing to be present with the pure, uncomplicated energy of the initial pain, you will often find that it is bearable. It arises, It stays for a time, and like all impermanent things, it passes away. It is the second arrow, the story we tell ourselves about the pain, that is truly unbearable, for that story can last a lifetime. Tending to the first wound with the gentle balm of mindful awareness is the skill of a wise person. It is how we stop being the primary cause of our own suffering and begin to walk the path of true and lasting peace. Having seen the truth of our own inner suffering, the constant, low-grade fever of dissatisfaction we call dukkha, and having understood that much of this suffering comes from the second arrow that we shoot into ourselves, it would be easy to feel discouraged. It might seem as though we have simply uncovered a design flaw in the human condition, a permanent and unfixable state of unease. But the journey does not end with this diagnosis. In fact, this clear, courageous seeing is only the first step. The Buddha, in his role as the great physician of the mind and heart, did not point out the sickness to leave us in despair. He did it so that we could understand the possibility of a cure. He presented his core teaching in a simple, elegant, and profoundly practical framework, a structure that has served as a guide for spiritual healing for over 2,500 years. This framework is known as the Four Noble Truths. These are not truths in the sense of dogmas that you must accept on blind faith. They are not commandments from a God. They are, instead, four facts, four realities, presented for our own investigation, much like a doctor's medical chart. They are a map that shows us exactly where we are, how we got here, where we can go, and the precise path to take to get there. Approaching these truths with an open and curious mind is the key to unlocking their liberating power. They are called noble truths, not because they are fancy or aristocratic, but because the act of understanding them, of facing them squarely, ennobles the person who does so. It lifts us out of confusion and into a state of clarity and purpose. The first noble truth is the one we have already explored. It is the truth of dukkha. It is the honest and unflinching diagnosis. In life, there is suffering, there is stress, there is dissatisfaction. There is the obvious pain of loss, sickness, and old age. There is the pain of not getting what we want, and the subtle stress of getting what we want and fearing its loss. There is the pain of being separated from what we love, and the pain of being joined with what we dislike. At its deepest level, it is the fundamental unease that comes from clinging to a collection of changing processes of body, our feelings, our thoughts as if they were a solid, permanent self. To acknowledge this truth is an act of immense courage. In a world that encourages us to constantly seek distraction, to put a positive spin on everything, and to deny the reality of our own inner pain, the willingness to simply stand still and say, yes, there is a friction here, there is an ache, something is not quite right, is a noble act. It is the moment a patient stops denying their symptoms and decides to seek help. Without this first step, no healing is possible. You are not being negative when you acknowledge dukkha. You are being a realist. You are being a spiritual adult, ready to take responsibility for your own well-being. Once the diagnosis is made, a wise physician seeks the cause. This brings us to the second noble truth, the truth of the origin of dukkha. The Buddha declared that our suffering is not random. It is not a punishment from an external power. It has a specific, identifiable cause, a cause that lies not in the world outside, but within our own minds. The cause of dukkha, he said, is tāna, a word that translates as thirst, craving, or clinging. It is the deep, insatiable thirst of the ego to be satisfied, a thirst that can never be permanently quenched. This thirst takes three primary forms. The first is the thirst for sense pleasures. This is the endless wanting of pleasant experiences, a delicious taste, a beautiful sight, a pleasant sound, a comforting feeling. We chase after the next good meal, the next entertaining show, the next comfortable possession, believing that this time it will finally bring lasting happiness. But as we know, the pleasure of even the finest meal fades. The excitement of a new purchase wears off. This chase is a treadmill, and as long as we are on it, we are bound to a cycle of temporary satisfaction, followed by renewed craving and subtle disappointment. The second form is the thirst for existence, the craving to be or to become. This is the ego's deep-seated desire for a solid and lasting identity. It is the craving for fame, for status, for respect. It is the desire to build a legacy, to be remembered, to prove that I am important and real. This is the thirst that drove us to build our professional careers, to cling to our titles, to fill our cup to the brim. When that identity is taken away in retirement, this thwarted thirst is a primary source of our dukkha. It is the ego's protest against its own impermanent nature. The third form is the thirst for non-existence, or aversion. This is the craving to get rid of what is unpleasant. It is the desperate pushing away of pain, sickness, criticism, old age, and death. It is the voice in our head that screams, "I don't want this. Get it away from me." This aversion is the engine of the second arrow. The first arrow of pain strikes, and our immediate aversion to that pain causes us to tense up, to create stories of blame and fear, thereby shooting ourselves with the second arrow of mental suffering. This recognition that the root cause of our suffering is our own internal state of craving and aversion is profoundly empowering. If the cause were external, if the world were simply broken, we would be helpless victims. But because the cause is internal, it means the solution is also within our grasp. We are not victims of circumstance. We are prisoners of our own habits of mind, and we hold the key to our own cell. This leads us to the breathtaking hope of the third noble truth, the truth of the cessation of dukkha. The physician, having diagnosed the illness and identified its cause, now delivers the prognosis, and it is one of ultimate optimism. He states, unequivocally, that there is an end to suffering. This condition is curable. There exists a state, attainable by human beings, that is free from the fever of craving, free from the fires of greed, hatred, and confusion. This state is called nirvana. It is not a heaven that we go to after we die. It is a state of mind, a psychological reality that can be experienced here and now. It is the state of the mind that has ceased to shoot second arrows. It is the peace that comes when the thirst has been quenched, not by getting everything it wants, but by understanding the nature of the thirst itself and letting it go. It is the cooling of all that is hot and agitated within us. It is the profound, unshakable peace of a mind that rests in reality as it is. This naturally leads to the final, all-important question: how? How do we get there from here? The physician does not just tell us a cure exists. He hands us the detailed prescription, the practical, step-by-step treatment plan. This is the fourth noble truth, the truth of the path, leading to the cessation of dukkha. The Buddha laid out a clear, practical, and comprehensive path that anyone can walk. It is not a path of blind faith, but a path of cultivation, of training, of personal development. This path is known as the Noble Eightfold Path. We will explore its steps in detail, but for now, we can see it as a complete program for living a wise and compassionate life. It consists of 8 interconnected practices that are traditionally grouped into 3 sections. First is the development of wisdom, which includes understanding these truths and cultivating intentions of kindness and letting go. Second is the cultivation of ethical conduct, which involves speaking, acting, and earning a livelihood in ways that do not harm ourselves or others. Third is the training of the mind, which includes the practices of mindfulness and concentration that we have begun to explore. These 4 truths, taken together, form a perfect, logical, and compassionate structure. First, the doctor diagnoses the illness, dukkha. Second, he identifies its cause, craving. Third, he assures us there is a cure, the cessation of craving. And fourth, he gives us the medicine, the eightfold path. This is not a religion that asks for your belief. It is a science of the mind that invites your participation. It is a map offered with profound compassion that shows us the way from the shore of suffering, confusion, and anxiety to the far shore of peace, wisdom, and liberation. Having received the physician's diagnosis of dukkha, understood its cause in our own craving, and been given the hopeful prognosis that a cure is possible, we now arrive at the prescription itself. The fourth noble truth is not a theory, but a set of instructions. It is the living blueprint for a life of wisdom and peace. This is the noble eightfold path. It can sound intimidating, like a list of 8 difficult commandments, but it is better to imagine it not as a linear ladder to be climbed, but as a wheel with 8 essential spokes. Each spoke is unique, yet each is connected to the hub and supports the entire structure. If one spoke is weak, the wheel will not turn smoothly. When all 8 are cultivated together, they create balanced, forward motion on the journey to liberation. This path is also known as the middle way, a balanced approach that avoids the 2 extremes the Buddha saw in the world: the extreme of mindless indulgence in sensual pleasures and the extreme of harsh, self-punishing asceticism. It is a gentle, sustainable, and intelligent path, one that is perfectly suited for the wisdom years of retirement, where we have the time and space to truly cultivate a life of meaning. The 8 factors of the path are traditionally organized into 3 divisions. The first is the division of wisdom, the foundation upon which everything else is built. It is about seeing things clearly. It includes the first 2 spokes of our wheel. The first is right view, or right understanding. This is the importance of having a correct map of reality. Without a good map, any effort we make could lead us in the wrong direction. Right view means seeing the world and ourselves in accordance with the truths we have been exploring. It is the clear understanding of impermanence, knowing that all things, including our bodies, our thoughts, and our feelings, are in a constant state of flux. It is the clear understanding of dukkha, recognizing the presence of dissatisfaction and its cause in our own clinging. It is the clear understanding of the law of cause and effect, that our wholesome actions of mind and body lead to peace, while our unwholesome actions lead to suffering. And it is the clear understanding of no self, seeing that we are not a solid, separate ego, but an interdependent process. For a person in retirement, right view is the wisdom that sees this new chapter not as a tragic end, but as a natural unfolding of impermanence, an opportunity to practice letting go, and a chance to discover a peace that does not depend on external roles or validation. The second spoke in the division of wisdom is right intention, or right thought. Once we have the correct map, we need to set our inner compass in the right direction. Right intention is the conscious cultivation of wholesome motivations. It is the deliberate choice to align our inner world with wisdom and compassion. This is broken down into 3 aspects. The first is the intention of renunciation, or letting go. This is the active desire to release our grip on craving, to find happiness not in getting more, but in wanting less. The second is the intention of goodwill. This is the conscious decision to meet the world and its inhabitants with a heart of loving kindness rather than one of anger, resentment, or ill will. It is the simple, powerful wish, may all beings be well. The third is the intention of harmlessness, or compassion. This is the firm resolution not to cause harm, physically or mentally, to ourselves or to any other living creature. This intention is the wellspring from which all ethical action flows. This leads us to the second division, the division of ethical conduct. This is where our inner wisdom and intention manifest in our outer actions. It is how we walk our talk. It comprises the next 3 spokes. Third is right speech. Our words have tremendous power to create either harmony or conflict. In retirement, with more time for social interaction, this practice becomes especially important for nurturing our relationships. Right speech is not just about avoiding lies. It involves 4 specific abstentions. First, we refrain from false speech, speaking only what is true and useful. Second, we refrain from slanderous or divisive speech, words that set one person against another. Third, we refrain from harsh speech insults, yelling, verbal abuse, and instead cultivate a way of speaking that is gentle and kind. Fourth, we refrain from idle chatter, the kind of gossip and pointless talk that wastes our energy and clouds the mind. Right speech is the practice of using our words as a tool for healing, connection, and truth. Fourth is right action. This concerns our physical behavior. At its core is the intention of harmlessness. Traditionally, this means refraining from killing, from stealing, and from sexual misconduct. More broadly, it means living with integrity. It is respecting the property and bodies of others. It is moving through the world in a way that is peaceful and constructive. It is about ensuring that our physical actions do not create suffering for ourselves or anyone else. It is about making our body a vehicle for peace. Fifth is right livelihood. You might think, I am retired, I no longer have a livelihood. But this principle can be beautifully reframed for this stage of life as right engagement. It asks us to look at how we now use our time, our energy, and our resources. Are our daily activities wholesome? Are our hobbies, our volunteer work, our financial investments, our consumption habits aligned with our deepest values of harmlessness and compassion? Right engagement means consciously choosing to engage with the world in ways that are beneficial and life-affirming, ensuring that even in retirement, our presence on this earth is a source of good. The third and final division is that of mental discipline, or meditation. This is the inner training that gives us the strength and clarity to walk the first 5 parts of the path. It comprises the last 3 spokes and is what makes the wheel turn. Sixth is right effort. This is not a grim, white-knuckled struggle. It is the joyful and balanced energy of a gardener tending the mind. It has 4 aspects. First is the effort to prevent unwholesome states like anger, greed, or jealousy from arising. Second is the effort to abandon these states with wisdom when they do arise. Third is the effort to cultivate wholesome states like kindness, generosity, and mindfulness that are not yet present. And fourth is the effort to maintain and nurture these wholesome states when they are present. It is the conscious, moment-to-moment practice of choosing which seeds to water in the garden of your mind. Seventh is right mindfulness. This is the heart of the path, the central quality that illuminates all the other factors. We have explored this as the practice of paying attention, on purpose, in the present moment, without judgment. It is the skill of the zookeeper watching the monkey mind. It is being aware of your body as you move through the day. It is noticing feelings as they arise and pass away. It is observing your thoughts without getting lost in them. Right mindfulness is the foundational skill that allows us to see the second arrow before we shoot it. It is what allows us to know when we are straying from right speech or right action and to gently guide ourselves back. It is the constant, gentle light of awareness that illuminates our path. Eighth, and finally, there is right concentration. This is the fruit of sustained effort and mindfulness. It is the ability to gather the scattered energies of the mind and unify them, allowing the mind to become still, clear, and powerful. Where mindfulness is a broad, open awareness, concentration is the ability to place that awareness on a single point and have it remain there, unwavering. This stability of mind is what allows for the deepest insights into the nature of reality to arise. It is the deep, peaceful collectedness that is the true home for the heart. Right concentration is the calm, stable hub of the wheel, from which all the spokes draw their unshakable strength. These 8 spokes, cultivated together, create a life of profound beauty and balance. They are not rules to be followed out of fear, but a design for living to be embraced with joy. This is the prescription the great physician offered. It is a path that leads, step by step, breath by breath, from the friction and stress of dukkha to the far shore of lasting peace, a peace that is the birthright of every human heart. Having walked the path of wisdom, seeing the truth of our own inner workings, and having been given the great map of the eightfold path, we now turn our attention to the direct cultivation of the heart. For a path of wisdom without a heart of kindness can become dry and brittle, and a heart of kindness without wisdom can be misguided. The two must grow together, like the 2 wings of a great bird. After decades spent in the world of work, a world often driven by competition, deadlines, and ambition, the inner garden of the heart can become neglected. In the newfound quiet of retirement, we may find that weeds have grown their weeds of resentment over past slights, weeds of bitterness about how life has turned out, and perhaps the most pervasive weed of all, the deep, creeping vine of loneliness. This is not a personal failure. It is the natural consequence of a soil that has not been intentionally cultivated. We may feel a subtle hardening of the heart, a tendency to be more easily irritated, a cynicism that colors our view of the world. We may feel forgotten by former colleagues, or a growing distance from a world that seems to be moving on without us. These feelings are the parched, cracked earth of a heart that is thirsty. Our culture tells us to just be positive, to force a smile, but this is like painting the weeds green. It is a superficial fix that does not address the underlying condition of the soil. The Buddhist path offers a more profound solution. It offers us a way to water this parched garden, to soften the soil, and to plant new seeds. This practice, this gentle, life-giving water for the heart, is called metta, or loving kindness. Metta is a word that is difficult to translate with a single English term. It is not the sentimental, romantic love of songs and poems. It is not the conditional, transactional affection we often feel for those who please us. And it is not simply being nice. Metta is a deep, unconditional friendliness toward all of life. It is a steady, benevolent warmth, like the reliable light of the sun, which shines on the beautiful flower and the thorny weed alike, without judgment or preference. It is the sincere, heartfelt wish for the well-being of oneself and others. It is not so much a feeling we must have, as it is a volition, an intention that we cultivate. The great masters taught that metta is a bhavana, a word that means to develop or to cultivate. This is incredibly empowering. It means we do not have to wait until we feel loving to practice loving kindness. We can practice it as a skill, just as one learns to play the piano. At first, it may feel clumsy and mechanical. We practice the scales, the simple exercises. But with steady, gentle practice, the heart, like the fingers of a musician, becomes more nimble, more flexible, and eventually, music begins to flow naturally without effort. There is a powerful story that illustrates the immense strength of this seemingly gentle quality. The Buddha had an envious cousin named Devadatta, who tried many times to harm him. One day, Devadatta arranged for a fierce, wild elephant named Nalagiri to be intoxicated and let loose on the narrow road where the Buddha was walking. The elephant, enraged and drunk on power, charged down the lane, trumpeting with fury, scattering all the townspeople before it. The Buddha's disciples urged him to run, to seek safety, but the Buddha simply stood his ground, his heart calm and unafraid. He looked at the raging beast, not as a threat, but as a being lost in a state of terrible fear and confusion. Instead of fear or anger, he radiated a powerful, unwavering field of pure metta, a wave of unconditional friendliness and goodwill toward the elephant. The charging beast, which had never before encountered such an energy, began to slow down. Its trumpeting softened, the rage in its eyes dissolved. As it reached the Buddha, this massive, powerful creature, utterly tamed by the force of loving kindness, knelt down peacefully at his feet. This story teaches us that metta is not a weak or passive state. It is a profound and transformative power, capable of taming the most violent energies, both in the world outside and, more importantly, within our own hearts. Our own rage, our own fear, our own bitterness, these are our inner nalagiris. We cannot defeat them by force. We can only tame them with the gentle, persistent, and courageous practice of metta. So, let us now begin the practice, the systematic watering of the garden of the heart. Find a comfortable posture, a position of relaxed dignity. Let the body become still, and allow the breath to be natural and easy. We will practice in 4 expanding stages, like the ripples spreading from a pebble dropped in a still pond. The first stage, and for many of us the most difficult, is to direct the warmth of metta toward ourselves. We are often our own harshest critics, our own worst enemies. The idea of offering kindness to ourselves can feel selfish, indulgent, or even impossible. We may feel we don't deserve it. But consider this: you cannot pour water from an empty vessel. If your own heart is a parched desert, you have nothing to offer the world. Learning to care for yourself, to wish for your own well-being, is the necessary foundation for all true compassion. It is not selfish, it is wise. So, let us begin. You can place a hand over your heart if it helps to feel a sense of warmth and connection. And then, silently, gently, you can begin to repeat a few simple phrases. You can use the traditional ones, or any words that resonate with you. Let the phrases be like a gentle, rhythmic rain. May I be safe. May I be healthy and strong. May I be happy and content. May I live with ease. As you repeat these phrases, do not worry about manufacturing a particular feeling. Simply rest in the intention behind the words. You are planting a seed. The feeling will grow in its own time. Just offer the words as a gift to your own heart. May I be safe from inner and outer harm. May my body and mind be healthy. May I know the simple joy of being at peace. May I navigate the challenges of my life with ease and grace. Stay with this for some time, patiently and kindly offering yourself this profound gift of friendliness. Now, we allow the circle of kindness to expand. Let go of the focus on yourself and bring to mind a person for whom you have great affection and respect. This could be a beloved friend, a cherished family member, a mentor who helped you, or even a beloved pet. Choose someone for whom your heart naturally opens, someone it is easy to love. Picture this person in your mind's eye. See them smiling. Recall the feeling of warmth and joy you have in their presence. Let that genuine feeling of affection be the wellspring of your metta. And now, direct the phrases toward them. May you be safe. May you be healthy and strong. May you be happy and content. May you live with ease. As you repeat the phrases, let your heart's natural warmth flow toward this person. Let it be a genuine offering, a sincere wish for their ultimate well-being. Feel how easy it is to wish them well. Rest in this feeling of easy, flowing friendliness. This stage helps us recognize the feeling of metta in its purest form, using the energy of our existing love as a training ground. Next, we expand the circle again into what can feel like more challenging territory. Let go of the image of your loved one and bring to mind a neutral person. This is someone you see in your daily life, but for whom you feel neither strong-like nor dislike. It could be the person who delivers your mail, a clerk at the grocery store, a neighbor you only know well enough to nod to. In our normal lives, we are mostly indifferent to these people. They exist as functions, not as fellow human beings who, just like us, wish to be happy. This stage is a powerful practice for breaking down the walls of indifference. Picture this neutral person in your mind. See them not as a mail carrier or a clerk, but simply as another human being. And now, extend the same heartfelt wishes to them. May you be safe. May you be healthy and strong, and so on. This may feel more mechanical at first, and that is perfectly all right. The act of including this person in your circle of care is what matters. You are stretching the muscle of your heart. You are recognizing a shared humanity that transcends roles and familiarity. You are affirming that their happiness matters, simply because they exist. Now we arrive at the most transformative and potentially most difficult stage of the practice. This is the great alchemical work of the heart. We are going to extend the wish for well-being to a difficult person. It is very important to approach this stage with wisdom. Do not start with someone who has caused you deep trauma. That requires much more support and skill. Begin with someone who is merely irritating, someone who frustrates you or with whom you have a mild chronic conflict. The purpose of this practice is not to condone their harmful actions or to pretend that what they did was okay. The purpose is to free yourself. Holding on to anger, resentment, and hatred is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It only harms you. It is the heaviest burden we can carry. This practice is an act of radical self-care, a way to put down the burning coal you have been clutching in your own hand. Bring the image of this person to mind, briefly. Acknowledge the difficult feelings that arise, and then try to see them as the Buddha saw Nalagiri the elephant, as a being who is suffering, a being who is caught in their own confusion, their own fear, their own dukkha. Their harmful actions are born from their own inner poison. And then, as an experiment, as an act of liberating your own heart, tentatively extend the phrases of metta toward them. Just as I wish to be happy, may you also be happy. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be free from the anger and confusion that cause you to suffer. If this feels too difficult, that is fine. You can simply wish, may I be free from the anger I feel towards you. Or you can return to sending metta to yourself. But if you can, persist gently. The intention is what matters. You are not trying to force a feeling of love. You are making a courageous choice to stop watering the seed of hatred in your own heart. With every phrase you offer, you are dissolving the chains of your own resentment. Finally, having worked with these distinct individuals, we let go of all the barriers. We let the circle of metta become boundless. First, picture yourself, the cherished friend, the neutral person, and the difficult person all sitting together in a circle, and send the wish for well-being to all four of you equally. May we all be safe. May we all be happy. Then, let that circle expand. Radiate the light of metta outward from your heart in all directions, to all the people in your building, on your street, in your town, to all the people in your country, to all the people on your continent, and across the entire planet, to all beings without exception, large and small, seen and unseen, human and animal. Let your heart become like a great sun, radiating warmth and light in every direction, without preference or exclusion. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be healthy. May all beings everywhere be happy. May all beings everywhere live with ease. Rest in this state of boundless, universal friendliness. This is the ultimate antidote to loneliness, for in this state, there are no others. There is only a vast, interconnected web of life, and your heart is at peace with it all. Taking this practice off the cushion, you will find it changes you. It softens your gaze. It makes you more patient. It makes kindness your default response, rather than a conscious effort. You have systematically worked the soil of your heart, pulling the weeds of resentment and bitterness, and watering it with the gentle, life-giving rain of metta. And in this well-tended garden, the beautiful, resilient flowers of joy, compassion, and peace can finally, truly begin to bloom. When the soil of the heart has been softened by the gentle rain of metta, or loving kindness, it becomes fertile ground for an even deeper quality to blossom. Metta is the sincere wish for all beings to be happy. But what happens when our heart, now warm with this friendliness, encounters suffering? What is the natural response of a kind heart when it meets with pain, either in ourselves or in others? That response is karuna, the Sanskrit and Pali word for compassion. If metta is the sun, karuna is the moonlighter, soft, tender radiance in the darkness of suffering. It is the trembling of the heart in the face of pain, accompanied by the deep aspiration to alleviate that pain. It is crucial to understand that compassion is radically different from pity. Pity is a sentiment that looks down from a position of superiority. When we pity someone, we create a distance between ourselves and them. We see them as that poor person over there, separate from us, and we feel fortunate not to be in their position. Pity can feel condescending to the one who receives it and can subtly reinforce our own ego. It is a form of separation. Compassion is the very opposite. It is a form of connection. The word literally means to suffer with. It is the recognition of our shared humanity in the face of life's first arrows. It does not say, "I am glad I am not you." It says, "I am with you. Your suffering is my suffering." It is the brave and tender willingness to step into the reality of another's pain, not to be overwhelmed by it, but to offer the solidarity of a shared heart. It is not a sad, sentimental feeling. It is an active, courageous, and engaged state of being. In the Mahayana Buddhist tradition, the living embodiment of this immense compassion is a figure known as Avalokiteshvara, the one who hears the cries of the world. The stories tell of how this great being, a bodhisattva, made a powerful vow to work tirelessly until every last being was liberated from suffering. For countless eons, Avalokiteshvara listened, reached out, and guided innumerable souls away from their pain and confusion. But after all this work, upon looking out across the universe once more, they saw that the ocean of suffering was still just as vast. For every being liberated, another seemed to fall into despair. The cries of the world were endless. Faced with the sheer, overwhelming scale of the world's pain, in a moment of profound existential despair, Avalokiteshvara's heart broke. It literally broke. Their head shattered into 11 pieces, and their body exploded into 1,000 fragments, unable to bear the weight of so much sorrow. This is a crucial moment in the story. It teaches us that to have an open heart in this world is to be willing to be broken open by it. It is okay to feel overwhelmed by the suffering we see. It is a natural response of a sensitive heart, but the story does not end in despair. From this state of utter brokenness, a great miracle occurred. Another Buddha, Amitabha, seeing this noble being's sacrifice, gathered up the broken pieces. He reassembled the 11 heads, so that Avalokiteshvara could now hear the cries of suffering from all directions at once. And he transformed the 1,000 shattered pieces of the body into 1,000 compassionate hands, so that Avalokiteshvara could reach out and offer help in 1,000 different ways. And in the palm of each of the 1,000 hands, he placed an eye of wisdom. This powerful image holds the complete teaching on true compassion. First, it is born from our willingness to be vulnerable, to let the world's pain touch us, and even break our hearts open. Second, compassion is not passive, it is active. It must manifest as 1,000 hands, as skillful action in the world. Third, and most importantly, compassion must be guided by wisdom, symbolized by the 1,000 eyes. Action without wisdom can be ineffective or even harmful. This brings us to a vital point. the potential pitfalls of an untrained, compassionate heart. Sometimes, in our desire to help, we can fall into what is known as empathic distress or burnout. This is what happened to Avalokiteshvara at first. We try to take on all the suffering of another person or of the world, and we become crushed by its weight. We must remember that our task is not to carry another person's burden, but to help them find the strength to carry it themselves. We are there to offer a helping hand, not to become a permanent crutch. Another pitfall is what the great meditation master Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche called idiot compassion. This is kindness, devoid of wisdom. It is the tendency to give people what they want in the moment, rather than what they truly need, primarily because it makes us feel more comfortable or helps us avoid a difficult confrontation. A classic example is enabling the destructive behavior of an addict out of a misguided desire to be kind by not upsetting them. This is not true compassion. True compassion, the union of 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes, is willing to be firm. It is willing to set boundaries. It is willing to speak a difficult truth, if that truth will lead to the long-term cessation of suffering. It has the wisdom to see the bigger picture and the courage to act in accordance with that wisdom, even if it is difficult. How then do we practice this wise compassion in our own lives? For those in retirement, this chapter of life offers a profound opportunity. With the relentless demands of a career now in the past, we are given the precious gift of time to be present, time to listen, time to serve in new ways. The practice of compassion does not have to be a grand, dramatic gesture. It lives in the small moments of our day. Perhaps the most powerful act of compassion we can offer is the simple act of deep listening. When a friend or family member is in pain, our instinct is often to jump in with advice, to offer solutions, to try and fix their problem. But often, what a person truly needs is simply to be heard, to have their pain witnessed by a loving, non-judgmental presence, to sit with someone in their sorrow without needing to change it, without needing to make it go away, is an act of immense compassionate strength. You are offering them the safe space of your presence, and in that space, they can often find their own way through. The 1,000 hands can also manifest as simple acts of service, helping a neighbor carry their groceries, volunteering for a cause you believe in, taking the time to offer a sincere word of thanks and encouragement to a cashier or a service worker who seems stressed and overworked. These small acts send ripples of kindness into a world that is thirsty for it. And finally, we must learn to turn the gentle gaze of karuna inward toward ourselves. When you are experiencing physical pain, instead of meeting it with frustration and anger, the second arrow, can you meet it with compassion? Can you treat your own aching body with the same tenderness you would offer a suffering friend? You can place a hand on the part of your body that hurts and silently offer the wish, may this pain be soothed, may this body be at ease. When you are caught in a difficult emotional state like sadness or anxiety, can you offer yourself compassion instead of self-criticism? Can you acknowledge your own inner suffering with a gentle, "This is really hard right now. May I be kind to myself in this moment"? This is not self-pity. It is the wise and necessary act of tending to your own first arrows. A powerful way to cultivate this state is a simple breathing practice. As you breathe in, you can acknowledge a specific suffering with courage and clarity. For example, breathing in, you can think of the loneliness felt by so many elderly people. You are not trying to absorb it or take it on. You are simply allowing your heart to connect with that reality. Then, as you breathe out, you can send out the sincere wish. May all those who are lonely feel a sense of connection and peace. Breathing in, you acknowledge the reality of physical pain. Breathing out, you send the wish for healing and ease to all who are sick. In this way, your breath becomes an active vehicle for compassion. You are training your heart to respond to suffering not with fear or aversion, but with a brave, open, and healing love. This is the heart of the Bodhisattva, a heart that has the courage to listen to the cries of the world and the wisdom to respond with 1,000 gentle hands. Having cultivated a heart of loving kindness through metta and a heart that trembles with compassion in the face of suffering through karuna, we now arrive at the third of the 4 great divine abodes of the heart. This is the quality of mudita, which can be translated as sympathetic or appreciative joy. If metta is the wish for others to be happy, and karuna is the wish for others to be free from suffering, mudita is the radical and beautiful practice of genuinely rejoicing when we see that they are happy. It is the ability to take delight in the good fortune, the success, the happiness, and the virtue of others, without any trace of envy or jealousy. On the surface, this might seem easier than compassion. To rejoice with the joyful should be simpler than to suffer with the suffering. Yet for many of us, mudita is the most challenging of all the heart practices. In our culture, we are deeply conditioned from a young age to compare and compete. We are taught to measure our own worth against the accomplishments of others. Our own success feels sweeter when others have less, and the success of others can feel like a personal defeat. This comparing mind is a deep and painful habit. It is a relentless engine of dissatisfaction, constantly seeking to determine if we are winning or losing in the game of life. This habit can become particularly venomous in the chapter of retirement. When our own career path has come to an end, we may look upon the successes of younger colleagues or even our own children with a complex mixture of pride and a painful sense of being left behind. We scroll through the curated images on social media and see friends traveling to exotic places while we are at home, or we see pictures of happy family gatherings and feel a pang of loneliness. We hear of a neighbor's good fortune, a friend's robust health, or another's financial success, and instead of feeling joy for them, we feel a subtle contraction in our own heart. A sour feeling arises. This is the poison of envy. Envy is the painful feeling of wanting what someone else possesses. It is a state of self-imposed poverty, where even if we are living in abundance, the success of another makes us feel suddenly poor. It operates on the deep, unconscious, and false assumption that happiness is a limited resource, a zero-sum game. It believes that there is only so much of the happiness pie to go around, and if someone else takes a large slice, it means there is less left for us. This belief is the source of immense, unnecessary suffering. It makes our world small, and it walls us off from the joy that is all around us. Mudita is the direct and powerful antidote to this poison. It is the practice that breaks the spell of the comparing mind. Mudita understands the truth, that joy is not a limited resource, it is infinite, it is generative. The happiness of another person does not diminish our own, it is an opportunity to expand it. Think of it this way, another person's joy is like a candle flame burning brightly. If you are sitting in a dark room with an unlit candle, you can take your candle and light it from their flame. Now, is their flame diminished in any way? Number. In fact, the total amount of light in the room has just doubled. This is the logic of mudita. By learning to rejoice in the happiness of others, we learn to light our own candle from their flame. We discover that there is an endless supply of joy available to us, once we stop believing that it can only come from our own personal successes. Of the 4 divine abodes, loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, mudita is often said to be the most difficult to cultivate for laypeople. It's relatively easy to feel compassion, karuna, for someone who is suffering, because in that moment, our own position feels superior. It's easy to feel loving kindness, metta, toward a dear friend who enriches our life, but to feel pure, unselfish joy for someone who has achieved something that we ourselves deeply desire, success, a wealth, a relationship. This requires a truly noble and spacious heart. It requires us to let go of the ego's constant need to be the center of the story. The purest form of mudita we often see in the world is the joy a loving parent feels for their child. Imagine a father who has worked hard his whole life to provide for his family. He watches his daughter graduate from university at the top of her class. As he sees her walk across the stage, his heart swells with a joy so immense it brings tears to his eyes. In that moment, is he thinking, "I wish I had that degree"? Is he comparing his own accomplishments to hers? Of course not. His heart is so open and connected to her that her success is his success. Her happiness has become his happiness. He partakes of her joy as if it were his own, and in doing so, his own joy becomes boundless. This is the model for mudita. It is the practice of expanding our sense of self to include others, so that their victories no longer feel like a threat, but like a shared celebration. Let us now begin the gentle cultivation of this joyful heart. Find your comfortable posture. Take a few moments to arrive in your body, feeling the breath. Let us start by offering a few phrases of metta to ourselves, creating a foundation of kindness and self-acceptance. May I be happy, may I be at peace. For before we can truly rejoice for others, we must be able to hold our own being with tenderness. Now, let us begin with the easiest form of mudita. Bring to mind a dear friend, a beloved child, or a cherished family member. Don't just think of them in general. Recall a specific moment of their happiness or success, a time when you saw them truly radiant with joy. Perhaps it was their wedding day. Perhaps it was the day they received a long-awaited piece of good news. Perhaps it was a simple moment of them laughing with pure, uninhibited delight. Bring that scene into your mind as vividly as you can. See the light in their eyes. Hear the joyful sound of their voice. Feel the vibrant, happy energy that surrounded them in that moment. Now, instead of just being a passive observer of this memory, consciously connect with their joy. Feel it resonate in your own heart. And as you feel this shared warmth, offer them these phrases. I rejoice in your happiness. I am so happy for you. May your joy and your good fortune continue. May your happiness increase and never fade. Let yourself smile as you say these words. Feel the genuine delight. There is no envy here, only shared celebration. Rest in this feeling. This is the pure, untainted experience of mudita. It is a beautiful and nourishing state. This is the baseline, the home base for our practice. Next, we expand the circle slightly. Let go of the image of your dear friend and bring to mind an acquaintance or even a stranger. Perhaps it's a neighbor whose garden is flourishing beautifully this year. Perhaps it's a young person you saw in a park, celebrating a birthday with their friends. Perhaps it's an athlete you saw on television, achieving a lifelong dream. These are people whose good fortune does not directly affect us, and whom we are usually indifferent to. The practice here is to consciously choose to overcome that indifference and participate in their joy. See the beautiful garden and think, how wonderful! I rejoice in the beauty they have created. See the celebration in the park and think, how lovely! May their celebration be filled with joy. Offer them the same phrases silently. I see your happiness, and I rejoice with you. May your good fortune continue. With this practice, we are training our mind to look for and appreciate the happiness that exists outside of our immediate circle. We are breaking the habit of only caring about the fortunes of me and mine. Now we approach the most alchemical work. Bring to mind someone whose success or happiness has been a source of envy for you. Again, be wise. Do not start with your greatest rival. Start with a case of mild envy. Perhaps a friend bought a new car that you secretly covet, or an acquaintance went on a trip to a place you've always wanted to go. First, acknowledge the feeling of envy without judgment. See it for what it is, a painful contraction of the heart, a feeling of lack. It is a form of suffering. Now, see if you can perform a radical experiment. See if you can shift your perspective just for a moment. Acknowledge the causes and conditions that led to their good fortune, their hard work, their good karma, a lucky break. Recognize that they, just like you, are simply trying to be happy. Their happiness does not take anything away from you. The universe does not have a limited supply of joy. Then, as an act of freeing your own heart from the prison of envy, tentatively offer the phrases of mudita. It may feel completely artificial at first. That does not matter. The intention is what counts. I see your good fortune. I acknowledge the envy I feel, and I will try to rejoice with you. May your happiness continue. Each time you are able to generate even a flicker of genuine mudita for someone you envy, you have performed a miracle. You have transformed the lead of jealousy into the gold of appreciative joy. You have liberated yourself from a painful obsession and taken a step into a much larger, more spacious world. Finally, let go of all specific individuals. Realize that at every single moment of every single day, countless beings throughout the universe are experiencing moments of joy. A puppy is being adopted into a loving home. A scientist is making a breakthrough that will help humanity. A farmer is rejoicing in a timely rain. An old couple is sitting quietly on a bench, content in each other's company. The world is a vast and inexhaustible feast of joy, and through the practice of mudita, you are invited to the banquet. You are no longer limited to the small scraps of your own personal happiness. You can delight in it all. Actively look for the good news. Notice the small joys. Balance your diet of world news, which is so often focused on suffering, with a conscious diet of joy. This is the ultimate cure for the feeling of being left behind. Envy makes our world shrink to the size of our own small, impoverished ego. Mudita expands our heart to the size of the universe. By learning to celebrate the happiness of others, we tap into an infinite wellspring of joy. Their happiness becomes our happiness, and our own capacity for joy becomes boundless. Having opened the heart to loving kindness, compassion, and sympathetic joy, we arrive at the fourth and culminating of the divine abodes. This is the quality that holds and balances all the others. It is the calm center in the midst of the storm, the steady anchor in the ever-turning tides of life. This quality is upekkha, or equanimity. It is the unshakable heart, the mind that has found its true and lasting peace. To understand the profound importance of equanimity, we must first look honestly at our ordinary state of being. Most of us live our lives like small boats tossed upon a stormy sea, our inner peace entirely dependent on the weather of external circumstances. The ancient Buddhist teachings describe this human predicament with a powerful image. They say we are constantly being blown about by the 8 worldly winds. These winds come in 4 pairs of opposites, and they are the forces that dictate our happiness and despair. The first pair is praise and blame. Think of how a simple compliment can lift our spirits for hours, making us feel validated and worthy. And then think of how a small criticism, a single unkind word, can send us crashing down, filling our minds with defensiveness, shame, and anger. Our self-worth is tethered to the opinions of others. The second pair is gain and loss. We feel a surge of excitement and security when we acquire something, a new possession, a financial windfall, a new friendship, and we feel a corresponding sense of pain and poverty when we lose something we cherish. Our inner stability is dependent on our external holdings. The third pair is success and failure. We are elated by victory, by achieving a goal, by being seen as successful. And we are devastated by failure, by making a mistake, by not living up to our own or others' expectations. Our happiness is contingent upon the outcome of our efforts. The final pair is pleasure and pain. This is the most fundamental pair of all. Our whole lives are often an unconscious pursuit of pleasant sights, sounds, tastes, and feelings, and a desperate avoidance of anything that is painful or uncomfortable. We are in a constant, exhausting dance of seeking and avoiding. To be blown about by these 8 winds is to live in a state of perpetual reactivity. It is to cede control of our inner well-being to the unpredictable, uncontrollable events of the world. Equanimity is the practice of finding our sea legs, of learning to stand steady in the boat, no matter which way the winds are blowing. It is vital to understand what equanimity is and what it is not. Its near enemy, the quality that looks similar but is profoundly different, is indifference. Indifference is a cold, withdrawn, apathetic state. It says, I don't care, it doesn't matter, none of this has anything to do with me. It is a form of shutting down, of walling off the heart to avoid being hurt. Equanimity is the very opposite. It is a state of immense, warm, and engaged caring. The heart with equanimity is wide open. It cares deeply about the world, but its own inner balance is no longer dependent on the outcomes. Equanimity is the capacity to love without needing to possess. It is the ability to feel compassion without being drowned in despair. It is the freedom to rejoice in another's joy without any trace of selfish attachment. It is the spacious, stable, and loving container in which all the other emotions can arise and be held with wisdom. Imagine the ocean. On its surface, there can be tremendous turmoil. Huge waves can crash, storms can rage, the water can be whipped into a chaotic frenzy. This is the surface of our lives, buffeted by the 8 worldly winds. But if you were to sink down, deep into the heart of the ocean, you would find a profound stillness, a vast, silent, imperturbable peace that is completely untouched by the chaos on the surface. Equanimity, or upekkha, is the practice of discovering and learning to abide in these deep, silent waters of the mind. The surface storms will still happen. That is the nature of life, but we no longer have to live there. We find our true home in the unshakable depths. There is a timeless Taoist story that perfectly illustrates this quality in action. It is the story of an old farmer and his horse. One day, the farmer's only horse, a valuable animal he needed for plowing his fields, ran away. His neighbors all came to his house to commiserate. "Oh, what terrible luck," they said, shaking their heads. "Your only horse is gone. You are ruined." The old farmer simply listened and then replied quietly, "Maybe." A week later, the horse returned, and it was not alone. It had led a herd of 12 wild horses back to the farmer's corral. The neighbors, hearing the news, rushed back to the farmer's house, their faces beaming. "What incredible luck," they exclaimed. "You went from having 1 horse to having 13. You are a rich man." The old farmer stood calmly amidst the commotion of the new horses and replied, "Maybe." The next day, the farmer's only son was trying to tame one of the wild horses. The horse threw him, and the son's leg was badly broken. The neighbors gathered once again, this time with faces full of sorrow. "What a disaster!" they cried. "Your only son, the one you depend on, is now crippled. This is the worst luck of all." The farmer, looking at his son's injury with a calm and caring heart, simply replied, "Maybe." A few weeks passed, and the country went to war. The emperor's army came through the village, conscripting every able-bodied young man for a brutal and almost certainly fatal conflict. They took the sons of all the farmer's neighbors, but when they came to the farmer's house and saw his son with his broken leg, they passed him by. The neighbors, weeping for the loss of their own sons, came to the farmer. "You were right to be calm," they said. "Your son's broken leg turned out to be the greatest fortune. You are truly blessed." The old farmer looked out over his fields and, with the same steady calm, replied, "Maybe." The farmer is the embodiment of upekkha. He is not indifferent. He cares for his horse. He loves his son. He participates fully in his life. But he has let go of the habit of labeling events as good luck or bad luck. He understands that he does not know the full story of any single event. He sees that what appears to be a disaster one day can be the seed of a blessing the next, and vice versa. He lives in the spacious wisdom of uncertainty. He does not get caught on the hook of praise or blame, gain or loss, success or failure. He remains in the calm, balanced center, allowing life to unfold as it will, meeting each moment with an open heart and a steady mind. How do we cultivate this profound stability in ourselves? The foundation of equanimity is the very practice of mindfulness that we have been developing all along. Every time you sit and watch a thought arise and pass away without getting caught in its story, you are strengthening your equanimity. Every time you notice a pleasant or unpleasant feeling in your body and simply allow it to be there without clinging to it or pushing it away, you are watering the seed of upekkha. The practice is to become more and more aware of our own reactivity. When someone praises you, notice the pleasant feeling, but also notice the mind's immediate tendency to cling to it and want more. When someone criticizes you, notice the sting of the first arrow, but also watch, with curiosity, the second arrow of defensiveness and anger beginning to form. We can also gently introduce the farmer's wisdom into our own mental dialogue. When something happens that your mind immediately labels as good, you can enjoy the moment, but also whisper to yourself, maybe. This isn't to diminish your joy, but to hold it lightly, to acknowledge its impermanent nature. And when something happens that your mind instantly labels as terrible, you allow yourself to feel the difficulty, but you can also create a space around it by whispering, maybe. This introduces a sliver of wisdom, a recognition that you do not see the whole picture. It loosens the iron grip of your immediate judgment and allows for a more spacious, peaceful, and wise response to the unfolding mystery of your life. This is the unshakable heart of upekkha, the crowning jewel of a mind that has found its freedom. We have spent much time together, exploring the inner world, cultivating the heart, and training the mind through practices of focused meditation. For many, this is where the spiritual life begins and ends, on a cushion, in a quiet room, for a set period of time each day. We see meditation as a special activity, separate from the rest of our so-called ordinary life. We have our meditation time, and then we have the time when we do the dishes, the time when we walk to the store, and the time we talk on the phone. This duality, this separation between our spiritual practice and our daily life, is one of the greatest obstacles to profound and lasting peace. The true purpose of sitting meditation is not just to feel calm for 20 minutes. The sitting practice is the training ground. It is the gymnasium where we strengthen the muscle of mindfulness. But the real arena, the place where that strength is tested and used, is in the everyday, moment-to-moment unfolding of our lives. The ultimate goal is to dissolve the boundary between meditation and life, to transform every act into an act of awareness. In this, the chapter of retirement offers a unique and precious opportunity. For decades, our days were structured by external demands. Now, the structure is gone. We have been given the gift of ordinary time. It is easy to see this time as empty, something to be filled with hobbies and distractions. But with a shift in perspective, we can see our homes not as places of isolation, but as our own personal monasteries. We can see our daily routines not as boring chores that get in the way of happiness, but as the very path to happiness itself. The Zen masters teach that there is no separation between the sacred and the mundane. The act of sweeping the floor, making the bed, preparing a meal, each of these can be a profound meditation, a moment of deep connection with reality if we bring our full attention to it. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh spoke often of this. He once told a story about a student who asked him how to practice mindfulness in the monastery. The student expected to be told about complex sitting or chanting practices. Instead, Thich Nhat Hanh spoke about washing the dishes. He described how, for most of us, Washing the dishes is an unpleasant chore to be rushed through. While we stand at the sink, our hands in the warm water, our minds are somewhere else entirely. We are thinking about the cup of tea we will drink afterwards. We are planning what we will watch on television. We are replaying a conversation from earlier in the day. We are trying to get the task over with so that we can move on to something more enjoyable. Because our mind is in the future, we are not truly alive during the time we are washing the dishes. We lose the precious moments of our life in our haste to get to the next moment. Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching was revolutionary in its simplicity. He said, "The purpose of washing the dishes is to wash the dishes." This means that the goal is not just to have a rack of clean dishes. The goal is to be fully, vibrantly alive while you are washing them, to be aware of the warmth of the water on your hands, to feel the smooth, slippery surface of the plate, to smell the scent of the soap, to hear the sound of the water, to be aware of your own breathing as you stand there. In that moment, the simple act of washing a dish becomes a miracle. You are fully present. You are not longing for the future or regretting the past. You are here. You are alive. He taught that peace and joy are not found at the end of the chore, in the future cup of tea. Peace and joy are available right here, in this present moment, in our ability to give our full attention to the task at hand. This is the secret of Zen. The miracle is not to walk on water. The miracle is to walk consciously on this green earth, to drink your tea mindfully, and to wash the dishes as if it were the most important thing in the world. Let us explore how we can bring this sacred attention into a few of our own daily rituals. Let us begin with the act of eating. Most of us eat on autopilot, often while doing something else, reading, watching a screen, or being lost in thought. We barely taste our food. Let's try, just for one meal, or even for just the first 3 bites of a meal, to turn it into a deep meditation. Before you take a bite, pause. Look at the food on your plate. Consider for a moment everything that had to happen for this food to be here. The sun that shone, the rain that fell, the earth that nourished the plants. Think of the farmer who toiled to grow it, the truck driver who transported it, the person who prepared it. Our food connects us to the entire cosmos. Then, bring the food toward your mouth and notice its aroma. Place the first bite on your tongue and put your fork down. Now, chew slowly, 30, maybe 40 times. Notice the explosion of different flavors, the textures, the temperature. Be fully present with these sensations. When you finally swallow, feel the food going down, nourishing your body. By eating in this way, we transform a mechanical act into an act of profound gratitude and connection. We truly receive the nourishment the earth is offering us. Let us now consider the simple act of walking. We walk all the time, but usually our mind is fixed on the destination. We walk to get to the car, to get to the store, to get to the next room. The journey itself is lost. We can transform any walk into a walking meditation. The next time you are walking, even if it is just from the kitchen to the living room, slow your pace down just a little. Bring your attention to the soles of your feet. Feel the sensation of your left foot lifting off the ground. Feel it as it moves through the space. Then, feel the heel making contact with the floor, followed by the ball of the foot and finally the toes. Then, feel the right foot lift, move, and land. Become fascinated by the simple, miraculous act of walking. You can synchronize your breath with your steps, perhaps taking 2 or 3 steps for each in-breath and 2 or 3 for each out-breath. The purpose is not to get anywhere. The purpose is to be fully present with each step. Each step becomes a declaration of your presence. Each step is an arrival in the here and now. We can apply this principle to any routine activity. Take the ritual of making your morning coffee or tea. Instead of rushing through it on autopilot, turn it into a ceremony of awareness. Feel the weight of the kettle as you fill it with water. Listen to the sound of the water pouring. As it heats, listen to the sound changing from a low hum to a rolling boil. Feel the warmth as you pour the hot water into your cup. Watch the steam rise. If you are making tea, watch as the color from the tea leaves slowly infuses the water, transforming it. If you are making coffee, inhale the rich aroma. Before you take the first sip, just hold the warm cup in your hands and be present. In these simple moments, you are practicing the art of being fully alive. This is the true integration of our practice. A spiritual life is not about leaving this world behind. It is about learning to live in it with an extraordinary quality of attention. It is about discovering the sacred in the so-called ordinary, listening to the bird song outside your window, feeling the warmth of a sunbeam on your skin, truly listening to a loved one without planning your response. These are all moments of deep meditation. The ultimate goal is to dissolve the line between practice and life, so that your entire life becomes a continuous, flowing meditation. The peace you have been seeking is not in some future state of enlightenment. It is available right now, in the heart of this very moment, in the simple, miraculous act of being fully present for your own life. Having journeyed through the practices of the heart, cultivating kindness, compassion, and joy, we now arrive at a practice that revitalizes the mind itself. It is a way of seeing that can transform the mundane into the miraculous and turn the predictable landscape of our lives into a territory of endless discovery. For decades, you were valued for your knowledge. You were an expert. In your profession, your family, your community, your experience was your greatest asset. You knew how to solve problems, how to navigate complex situations, how to get things done. This expert mind was carefully built over a lifetime, like a fortress constructed of facts, memories, and established procedures. It served you well. It gave you security and a sense of identity. But every fortress, while offering protection, also becomes a prison. It limits our view. It keeps the new and unexpected at bay. The expert mind, over time, becomes a closed system. It operates on the powerful and often unconscious assumption, I know. When confronted with a new idea, its first impulse is to categorize it based on what it already knows, or to dismiss it if it doesn't fit. When faced with a problem, it reaches for the old, tried and true solutions. It loses its curiosity. It loses its flexibility. The great tragedy of the expert mind is that it eventually stops seeing the world as it is. It sees only its own projections and memories. We think we know our spouse of 40 years, and so we stop truly listening to them because we believe we already know what they will say. We think we know how to drive to the store, and so we miss the sight of the new flowers blooming along the roadside. We think we know ourselves, and so we believe we are too old to change, too set in our ways to learn anything new. This subtle arrogance of knowing is the death of wonder. It is the source of boredom, of feeling that life has become stale and repetitive. Retirement presents a profound crisis for the expert mind. The specific field of expertise, the job, the role is suddenly removed. The fortress is decommissioned. This can lead to a terrifying feeling of uselessness. The expert mind, with no realm to command, can become rigid and defensive. It can create a deep resistance to trying new things, because at the heart of the expert is a deep fear of looking foolish, of being incompetent, of being a beginner. And yet, it is precisely in this state of being a beginner that our greatest freedom lies. The spiritual path invites us to dismantle the fortress of the expert mind, brick by brick, and to step out into the world with the fresh, open, and wondrous eyes of a child. This practice, this quality of mind, is known in Zen Buddhism by the beautiful term Shoshin, which translates as beginner's mind. The Zen master Shunryu Suzuki famously said, "In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's, there are few." This single sentence contains the entire teaching. Beginner's mind is the mind that is empty of preconceptions. and full of curiosity. It is the mind that is willing to say those three most powerful and liberating words in any language: I don't know. Think of how a small child explores the world. They are not burdened by knowing. A simple wooden spoon is not just a spoon. It can be a drumstick, a magic wand, a boat in a puddle, a person to talk to. Everything is new, everything is fascinating. The child is a master of Shoshin. Their mind is characterized by a few key qualities. The first is openness. They see without a filter of judgment or past experience. The second is curiosity. Their entire being is a question mark. Why is the sky blue? What does a worm feel like? The third is playfulness. They are not afraid to experiment, to make mistakes, to get messy. There is no shame in falling down when you are learning to walk. The fourth is presence. A child engaged with a fascinating new toy is the picture of perfect concentration. They are fully absorbed in the present moment, because the present moment is where all the new discoveries are happening. We all had this mind once. It has not been lost. It has simply been covered over by layers of knowledge, habit, and certainty. The practice of Shoshin is the practice of reawakening this, our original mind. There is a story of a great master of calligraphy in Japan, a man whose every brushstroke was considered a national treasure. His skill was legendary, his fame immense. He was the ultimate expert. Every morning, his students would watch as he entered his studio, prepared his ink, and unrolled his paper. And every morning, for 2 hours, he would practice a single, basic stroke here, simple, horizontal line. He had drawn this line millions of times over his 90 years of life. One day, a bold young student asked him, "Master, forgive my ignorance, but you perfected that stroke before any of us were born. Why do you still practice it every single day?" The old master paused, looked at his student with a kind and penetrating gaze, and said, "I practice this stroke every morning so that one day I might be able to draw it for the very first time." This is the heart of Shoshin. It is not about being an actual novice. It is about bringing the quality of a beginner's freshness, humility, and full attention to every aspect of our lives, no matter how familiar it may seem. How, then, do we begin to cultivate this beginner's mind in our own lives, to dismantle our own inner fortress of expertise? We can begin with a simple, silent practice. The practice of "I don't know" throughout your day, especially when you feel the expert mind rising up, ready to offer an opinion, a judgment, or a solution. Just pause, take a breath, and silently introduce the possibility of not knowing. What if I don't really know what's best here? What if I look at this situation as if I'm seeing it for the first time? This simple question creates a crack in the armor of certainty, allowing a little light of curiosity to shine in. Another powerful gateway to Shoshin is through rediscovering your senses. For one day, choose to privilege one of your senses and experience the world through it as if you had just been given it. For example, choose the sense of hearing. Listen to a piece of classical music you have heard 100 times. But this time, don't listen to the melody you already know. Try to listen as if you are deaf and have just been given the gift of hearing. Listen for the sound of a single violin. Listen for the deep resonance of the cello. Listen for the silence between the notes. Or just sit in your living room and listen. Don't label the sounds. That's the refrigerator. That's a car passing. Just hear them as pure patterns of vibration, as a symphony of the ordinary. Or choose the sense of sight. Pick up a familiar object, perhaps a leaf from your garden or even your own hand. Look at it for 5 full minutes, as if you are an alien from another planet who has never seen such a thing before. Notice the intricate network of veins in the leaf. Notice the texture, the subtle variations in color. Look at the lines on your own palm, the wrinkles on your knuckles, the shape of your fingernails. You will discover a universe of detail you have never seen before in the most familiar of objects. A direct and potent way to cultivate beginner's mind is to consciously embrace incompetence. The expert mind hates being incompetent. So, we must deliberately put ourselves in situations where we are guaranteed to be beginners. Take up a new skill that you have always been curious about, but know you will be bad at initially. Try learning to play the guitar. Try painting with watercolors. Try learning a new language. The goal here is not to become a new expert. The goal is to fully experience and befriend the process of learning, to feel the frustration of your clumsy fingers, to laugh at your own mistakes, to feel the small thrill of a minor breakthrough, to be humble. This practice directly dismantles the ego of the expert and reminds us of the joy and vulnerability of being a learner. Perhaps the most rewarding application of Shoshin is in our relationships. After many years together, we often stop seeing the people we love. We see our mental image of them, our accumulated history of them. We interact with a memory, not the living person in front of us. The practice here is to look at your spouse, your child, or your oldest friend as if you were meeting them for the first time. When they are telling you a story you have heard before, listen with fresh ears. Hear the nuances in their voice. Watch the light in their eyes. Look at their face, not as the familiar face you see every day, but as a living map of their unique life story. Ask them questions you think you already know the answer to. You may be astonished by what you discover. This practice can breathe an incredible freshness and intimacy into the most long-term relationships. Retirement, then, is not the epilogue to a life of expertise. It is the grand and liberating invitation to become a beginner again, a beginner at play, a beginner at rest, a beginner at discovering who you are when you are not defined by what you do. The fundamental shift is from a life of knowing to a life of wondering. Wonder is the engine of joy. It is the fountain of youth for the mind. The great adventure of this chapter of your life is not necessarily about traveling to new countries. It is about learning to see your own familiar world, your own familiar loved ones, and your own familiar self with the wide, open, and endlessly curious eyes of a beginner. This is the secret to a life that never grows old. The practices we have explored on this journey, mindfulness, compassion, equanimity, are not meant to be solitary pursuits, enjoyed only in the quiet of our own minds. Their ultimate purpose is to transform the way we relate to the world, and most importantly, the way we relate to those we love. The chapter of retirement brings with it a unique paradox. We are given the gift of more time, the opportunity for a deeper connection with our spouse, our children, and our closest friends. Yet this very proximity can act like a magnifying glass, intensifying the small irritations, the old resentments, and the unskillful communication habits that have been worn into deep grooves over decades. Think of your longest relationships as a well-traveled path. Over the years, certain conversations, certain arguments have created ruts in that path. When a point of contention arises, our minds, out of habit, fall into these same familiar ruts. The same accusations are made, the same defenses are raised, the same feelings of being unheard and misunderstood bubble to the surface. We are not really speaking with each other, we are speaking at each other, each of us reciting a well-rehearsed script from a competing monologue. We listen only for a gap in which to insert our rebuttal. We listen to find fault, to gather evidence for our own case. We listen to be right. The result is a profound sense of loneliness, a feeling of being unseen and unheard by the very people we are closest to. The truth is, our most important relationships often suffer not from a lack of love, but from a lack of skill, the skill of deep listening and the skill of loving speech. Let us first explore the art of deep listening. It is perhaps the greatest and rarest gift we can offer another human being. It is the practice of offering someone the full, undivided, and non-judgmental attention of our presence. It is a form of meditation, with another person as our focus. True listening is not a passive act of waiting for our turn to talk. It is an active, engaged, and compassionate practice. It begins with a clear intention. Before you enter a conversation, especially one you anticipate might be difficult, you can set a silent intention in your own mind. For the next few minutes, my primary goal is not to win, not to convince, not to defend, but simply to understand. I want to understand what it is like to be this person, in this moment. With this intention set, the next step is to quiet your own inner commentator. You know this voice well. It is the monkey mind, jumping in with its opinions, its judgments, its own stories. As the other person speaks, this voice will be whispering, "That's not true," or "Here we go again," or "I have a better story than that." The practice of deep listening is to gently, firmly ask this inner voice to be quiet. You are not listening to the chatter in your own head. You are listening to the heart of the person in front of you. This involves listening with your whole body. Your ears hear the words, but your eyes see the emotion in their face. Your body language open and relaxed rather than closed, and defensive communicates safety and acceptance. You are creating a space where it is safe for the other person to be vulnerable. Most importantly, you listen for the feeling beneath the words. People are rarely just communicating data. More often, they are trying to communicate an emotional state. Your spouse may be complaining about a household chore, but the feeling underneath might be, "I feel taken for granted." Your adult child might be speaking about their stressful job, but the feeling underneath might be, "I'm scared I can't handle this." When you listen for the emotion, you hear the true message. You can then respond not just to the surface words, but to the deeper need. After they have finished speaking, instead of immediately jumping in with your own point, you can reflect back what you heard, not parroting their exact words, but showing you understood the essence. It sounds like you felt really overwhelmed and alone when that happened. A simple statement like this is a profound gift. It says, "I see you, I hear you, you are not alone." Of course, communication is a two-way street. As we cultivate the skill of deep listening, we must also cultivate the skill of loving speech. This is the practical application of right speech from the Eightfold Path. There is a story of an old couple who had been married for 50 years. They loved each other deeply, but their life together was filled with constant bickering and misunderstanding. They went to a wise meditation master for help. The master did not give them complex psychological advice. He simply gave them 4 questions to hold in their minds. Before you speak to one another, he said, ask yourself these 4 things. Is what I am about to say true? Is it kind? Is it beneficial? And is it necessary? The couple went home and began to practice this. Let us look at these 4 gates of speech. The first is it true? This means more than just not telling lies. It means speaking with authenticity and without exaggeration. It means moving away from generalizing statements like, "You always leave the lights on," which is probably not true and is meant to attack, to a more honest I statement like, "When the lights are left on, I feel worried about the electricity bill." The second gate is it kind? This is about intention. Are my words intended to heal or to wound? Am I trying to connect or to win? Even a difficult truth can be delivered with a tone of kindness and a genuine desire for mutual understanding. The third gate is it beneficial? Will what I am about to say build a bridge or a wall between us? Will it move us toward a resolution, or will it simply escalate the conflict? This question helps us abandon pointless jabs and sarcastic comments that serve only to deepen the rift. The fourth and final gate is it necessary? This is a profound question. So much of our speech is filler, habitual noise. Sometimes the most loving and beneficial thing we can say is nothing at all. Learning to be comfortable with silence, to allow space in a conversation, prevents us from speaking impulsively and causing harm. The story goes that as the old couple began to filter their speech through these 4 gates, the atmosphere in their home began to change. There were fewer words, but there was more communication. The bickering subsided, replaced by a quiet, respectful peace. They were finally able to hear the love that had always been there, hidden beneath the noise of their unskillful speech. These practices have the power to heal even the most long-standing wounds. A genuine apology for our past unskillful ways of communicating, born not from guilt, but from a clear, mindful understanding of the harm we may have caused, can be a powerful balm. It is never too late to begin weaving a new pattern in our relationships. It can start with a simple, humble statement. I know that I haven't always been the best listener. It's something I want to work on, because you are important to me. This is not about blaming yourself or the other person. It is about taking responsibility for your own side of the path. The skills of deep listening and loving speech are the final frontier of our spiritual practice. They take all the qualities we have cultivated: wisdom, mindfulness, compassion, equanimity, and put them into action where they matter most, in the sacred space between 2 human hearts. By changing the way we listen and speak, we don't just have a better conversation, we create a better life, one filled with the connection, intimacy, and profound peace we have always longed for. As we walk this path of inner discovery, we have untangled the habits of the mind and softened the contractions of the heart. Now, we must turn our attention to the ground of our very existence, the physical body. For many of us, especially as we enter the later chapters of life, our relationship with our own body becomes complicated and often filled with conflict. For decades, it was a reliable servant, a vehicle that, for the most part, did what we asked of it. But now, it begins to speak a different language. It speaks the language of aches and stiffness in the morning. It speaks of diminished energy, of eyesight that is no longer sharp, of strange new pains and unfamiliar limitations. It can begin to feel less like a friend and more like a stranger, or worse, a traitor. We can fall into the trap of seeing our body as an enemy. We get angry at the knee that no longer allows us to hike our favorite trail. We feel betrayed by the hands that are now too stiff to practice a beloved craft. We look in the mirror and resent the face that no longer matches the youthful, vibrant person we still feel ourselves to be on the inside. This sets up a painful inner war. We, the mind, the consciousness, declare a battle against our own physical form. We see its changes as failures, its limitations as a personal affront. This internal conflict is a profound source of dukkha, a constant draining friction. We are shooting the second arrow of judgment, frustration, and resistance at the unavoidable first arrow of aging and impermanence. But what if we could call a truce? What if we could learn to see this lifelong companion not as an enemy to be fought, but as a dear old friend to be cared for with tenderness and respect? There is a story of a young, impatient traveler who visits a famous ancient temple. The temple has stood for 1,000 years, weathering countless storms and seasons. Its wooden pillars are worn smooth by the hands of generations of pilgrims. There are cracks in its plaster walls, and beautiful green moss grows on its gracefully curved roof tiles. The young traveler, accustomed to the new and the perfect, sees only decay. "This temple is old and broken," he says to a monk who is sweeping the temple steps. "Look at these cracks, this fading paint. It should be torn down and rebuilt, made new and perfect again." The old monk stops sweeping, leans on his broom, and smiles a deep, gentle smile. "You see the cracks," he says softly, "but I see the stories of the earthquakes and typhoons this temple has survived. You see the worn steps, but I see the devotion of 1,000,000 pilgrims who have come here seeking peace. You see the fading paint, but I see the beauty of a surface that has been touched by 1,000 years of sun and rain. This temple is not broken, it is complete. Its sacredness is not in its perfection, but in its endurance. It is beautiful not in spite of its age, but because of it. This is the shift in perspective that we are invited to bring to our own aging bodies. Our culture worships the new, the flawless, the youthful. It teaches us to see the signs of aging as flaws to be corrected or hidden, but with the eyes of wisdom, we can begin to see our body as this sacred, ancient temple. The wrinkles on our face are the map of our life's journey, the record of every smile, every laugh, every tear of sorrow and joy. The scars are testament to our survival, stories of wounds that have healed. The stiffness in our joints is the sign of a body that has worked hard, that has carried us through a full and active life. When we can see our body in this way, we stop fighting it. We can begin to inhabit it with a sense of reverence, gratitude, and awe. The most direct way to cultivate this new relationship, to move from fighting our body to befriending it, is through the practice of the body scan. This is a meditation of deep embodiment, of coming home to ourselves. Let us practice this now. Find a comfortable position, preferably lying down on your back, with your arms resting at your sides. Let your feet fall gently apart, close your eyes, and take a few slow, easy breaths. Let go of any need to do anything or achieve anything. For the next few minutes, your only task is to be a kind and curious visitor in your own home. Bring your attention all the way down to your feet. Become aware of your toes. You don't need to wiggle them, just feel them. Notice whatever sensations are present. Perhaps you feel warmth, or coolness, or tingling, or the pressure of a sock. Perhaps you feel nothing at all. The absence of sensation is also a sensation. Just notice. And as you rest your attention here, silently offer a word of thanks. Thank you, feet. Thank you for carrying me through this world for so many years, for walking so many thousands of miles on my behalf. Now, gently move your attention up to your ankles, your calves, and your shins. Simply feel what is there. Notice the contact of your heels with the surface beneath you. If there is any tightness or ache, don't try to make it go away. Just meet the sensation with a soft, gentle awareness, as if you were saying, "Ah, I see you, I feel you, it's okay." Then move your attention to your knees. The knees often carry the memory of much hard work. Be especially gentle here. Just feel the sensations present, without judgment, without a story, and offer your gratitude. Thank you, knees, for all your bending and supporting. Continue this slow, friendly journey upward. Bring your awareness to your thighs, your hips, your pelvis, feeling the weight of your body resting, supported. Move into your lower back, an area where so many of us hold tension. Just breathe into any sensations you find there, with softness and acceptance. Then bring your attention to your stomach and chest. Feel the gentle, rhythmic rise and fall with each breath. Become aware of the incredible processes happening within the beating of your heart, the work of your lungs, the miracle of digestion. Offer your gratitude to these faithful, internal organs that have worked tirelessly for you, day and night, for your entire life. Bring your awareness now to your hands and fingers. Feel the life, the energy that is present there. Think for a moment of all the things these hands have done. They have worked, they have built, they have held loved ones, they have cooked meals, they have wiped away tears. Silently thank your hands for their decades of loyal service. Move your attention up your arms to your shoulders. Let the shoulders be heavy, releasing any burdens they may be carrying. Bring your awareness to your neck, your jaw, and your face. Soften the tiny muscles around your eyes and your mouth. And finally, bring your attention to the very top of your head. For a few moments, feel your entire body as one single field of sensation, humming with life, breathing. This is the practice of befriending your body. The goal is not to feel good, but simply to feel. To replace the harsh stories we tell about our bodies with the direct, intimate, and real experience of our bodies. As we cultivate this mindful and grateful presence, our motivation for caring for our body begins to change. So often, we exercise or eat healthy food out of fear of getting sick, fear of falling apart, fear of dying. This can turn self-care into another source of stress, another battle to be won. But when we see the body as a dear friend, as a sacred temple, our motivation shifts from fear to love. We choose to eat nourishing food not because we are afraid of illness, but as a loving gift to this body. We go for a gentle walk, not to fight against aging, but to offer our companion the simple joy of movement and fresh air. We rest when we are tired, not out of failure, but as an act of profound kindness. Your body is the most faithful companion you will ever have. It has been with you in every moment of every day of your life, from your very first breath and until your very last. It has never, for an instant, abandoned you. By learning to inhabit it with mindfulness, to touch its pains with compassion, and to appreciate its history with gratitude, we heal the painful illusion that we are separate from it. We come home. We learn to live out our days, not at war with our own form, but in a peaceful, tender, and unbreakable friendship with the body that is, and always has been, our one true home. We have walked a long and deep path together, exploring the landscape of the mind and heart. We have learned to quiet the restless chatter of our thoughts, to let go of old identities, to embrace the ceaseless flow of impermanence, and to open our hearts to kindness, compassion, and joy. We have befriended our own aging bodies and learned to transform our relationships through mindful presence. Now, we arrive at the final gate, the one that stands at the end of every human life. We arrive at the great mystery of death. In our culture, this is the great unspoken topic, the shadow in the corner of the room that we spend a lifetime trying to ignore. But as we enter the later chapters of our lives, the presence of this shadow grows more insistent. The fear of our own mortality can become the unspoken anxiety that underlies all our other fears. It is the root of our clinging, the source of our deepest existential dread. To find true and unshakable peace, we must be willing to turn, with gentleness and wisdom, and look this great shadow in the face. Let us first be honest about the nature of this fear. It is not one single fear, but a complex bundle of them. There is the fear of the unknown, the mind's terror of a void, of a great black nothingness. There is the fear of annihilation, the ego's absolute horror at the thought that this I, this consciousness that has been the center of our universe for our entire life, will simply be extinguished forever. There is the fear of the dying process itself, the fear of pain, of dependency, of losing our dignity, and there is the deep grief of leaving loved ones behind, the sorrow of separation, and the regret for things left undone or unsaid. Our modern world does not help us with this fear. It treats death not as a natural, sacred, and meaningful part of life's cycle, but as a medical failure, an enemy to be fought with every technological weapon at our disposal. Death is hidden away in sterile institutions, spoken of in whispers. This cultural denial only deepens our terror, making death feel unnatural and monstrous. The first step on the path of fearlessness is to simply name our fears, to see them not as absolute truths, but as learned, conditioned responses. By bringing them into the light of our awareness, we begin to loosen their power over us. The Buddhist tradition offers a radical and transformative approach to this great fear. It teaches the practice of Maranasati, which means mindfulness of death. To a culture obsessed with youth and the denial of aging, this can sound morbid, depressing, even perverse. Why would anyone want to contemplate death? But the great masters understood a profound secret. It is the denial of death that drains our life of its richness and meaning. It is the conscious, gentle contemplation of our own mortality that is the key to living a life of vibrant, joyful, and courageous presence. When we truly accept that our time here is limited and uncertain, a profound shift occurs in our priorities. We stop wasting our precious, finite energy on petty grievances, on holding grudges, on accumulating things we don't need. The question, given that I will one day die, is this truly important, becomes a powerful filter for our actions. Suddenly, the need to be right in an argument seems less pressing than the desire to connect with a loved one. The accumulation of wealth seems less meaningful than the accumulation of moments of kindness and shared joy. Awareness of death is the ultimate cure for taking life for granted. The simple act of drinking a cup of tea, of watching a sunrise, of hearing a bird sing, these ordinary moments become infused with a breathtaking preciousness when we know they will not last forever. Gratitude becomes our natural state. Furthermore, death is the ultimate letting go. Every time we practice letting go of a painful memory, letting go of a desire, letting go of our need to control, we are rehearsing, in a small way, for the final release. Contemplating death is not about cultivating fear. It is about cultivating a deep and profound love for the life we have, right here, right now. Let us practice this gentle contemplation together. Find a quiet moment, take a few breaths, and reflect on these simple, undeniable truths. First, death is certain for all beings that are born. No one in the history of the world has ever escaped it. It is the most fundamental law of existence. I am no different. My body is of a nature to get sick, to grow old, and to die. It has not gone beyond death. Second, the time of my death is completely uncertain. It could be many years from now, or it could be much sooner. There are no guarantees. With each day that passes, with each breath I take, I am moving closer to that moment. Reflecting on this is not meant to create panic, but to awaken a sense of gentle urgency. Given this precious, unguaranteed gift of life, how do I wish to live? What truly matters to me? As we hold these sober realities in our awareness, we can now bring the great wisdom we have cultivated on this journey to bear upon them. The ego's greatest fear is the fear of its own annihilation. But who is it that dies? We have investigated this self and found it not to be a solid, separate thing, but a constantly changing process of body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. The you of today is not the same as the you of 20 years ago. The self is not a noun, but a verb. It is a flowing, interdependent process. So what is it that is annihilated at death? The process does not stop. The components that make it up simply disassemble and continue in new forms, according to the laws of cause and effect. A beautiful and helpful metaphor is that of the wave and the ocean. Imagine a single wave rising from the sea. For a time, it has a unique identity. It has a shape, a height, a speed. It travels across the surface, sparkling in the sun. From the limited perspective of the wave, the moment it crashes upon the shore is its end. It is death. It is annihilation. But from the perspective of the ocean, is anything lost? The water that composed that wave has not been destroyed. It has simply returned to its source, ready to be part of the next wave, the clouds, the rain. The wave was never, for a single moment, separate from the ocean. It was always just a temporary manifestation of the ocean. We are like that wave. We rise up from the great ocean of life, of consciousness. We have a name, a body, a unique personality for a time. And we believe this separate wave self is all we are. We fear the moment we will crash upon the shore. But the wisdom teachings invite us to realize our true nature. We are not just the wave. We are the entire ocean. Death is not the end of our existence. It is simply the end of our current form. It is a returning home. The Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh told this truth through the beautiful story of a little leaf on a tree. In the autumn, as the other leaves began to change color and fall, the little leaf became terrified. "I am going to die," it trembled to the branch. The branch replied with great gentleness, "Little leaf, you have been living a misunderstanding your whole life. You believe you are just a separate leaf, born in the spring and destined to die in the fall. But you are not. Look at yourself. Can you see the sunshine in you? Without the sun, you could not exist. Can you see the cloud and the rain in you? Without water, you could not exist. Can you see the tree trunk, the roots, the earth in you? You are connected to everything. You are not just a leaf, you are the whole tree, the whole forest, the whole sky." The branch continued, "And because you are not just a separate leaf, you cannot die. The process of change you call death is simply a transformation. When you let go of this branch, you will not fall into nothingness. You will float down and merge with the earth. You will become rich soil that will nourish me, the tree. And next spring, you will be reborn in countless new leaves. You are simply returning to your mother. Your form will change, but your essence, which is one with everything, continues forever." Hearing this, the little leaf lost all its fear. It enjoyed its last days, dancing in the autumn wind, shining in the sun, and when the time came, it let go gracefully, peacefully returning to its source. This is the invitation for us, to see that we are not just this separate ego, this little leaf. We are inextricably woven into the great web of life. Our being contains our parents, our ancestors, the food we have eaten, the air we have breathed, the ideas we have learned. And when our form dissolves, the energy and the causes and conditions that made us will continue, nourishing the world in new ways. With this understanding, how do we live? We live with a newfound freedom and love. Knowing that our time with others is precious, we waste no time on anger or resentment. We are moved to heal old wounds, to speak the words of love and gratitude that we have left unsaid. We live more fully in the present moment because we know it is the only time we truly have. There is a saying in many spiritual traditions about the importance of dying before you die. This means practicing the death of the small, fearful, separate ego self every single day through our mindfulness practice. Each time we let go of a reactive thought, each time we release an attachment, we are letting that false self die a little. And when we have practiced this death 1,000 times, when we have tasted the freedom and peace of our larger, ocean-like nature, the final dissolution of the body is no longer a source of terror. It is seen for what it is, one last, great act of letting go. Let us close with a moment of peace. Feel your body breathing. Feel the life that is pulsing through you right now. This aliveness is real. The past is a ghost. The future is a dream. Only this moment is alive. Rest in this aliveness. Trust in the great, mysterious, and beautiful process of which you are an inseparable part. By befriending the truth of death, we are finally, completely, and fearlessly free to live. We have traveled together on a long and winding path, an inward journey from the shores of confusion to the heart of understanding. We began in the disquiet of a new and unfamiliar silence, the silence of a life whose primary purpose, a career, a lifelong role, had suddenly vanished. We stood in that silence, and we met the restless, chattering monkey mind, the anxious voice that leaps from past regrets to future fears. We examined the heavy suit of armor we called our identity, the cup of our accomplishments that was so full there was no room for anything new. We have looked unflinchingly at the nature of suffering, seeing it not as a random punishment, but as the friction caused by our own resistance to life's natural flow. We have faced the great truths of impermanence and loss, and even turned our gentle gaze toward the ultimate mystery of our own mortality. And now, having journeyed through these deep valleys and high peaks, we arrive at the final understanding, a way to gather all these threads together into one simple, powerful and life-giving metaphor, the metaphor of the mind as a garden. For most of our lives, while we were diligently cultivating our careers, our families, and our place in the world, this inner garden was often left untended. We were too busy. The garden of the mind became overgrown. Thorny weeds of anxiety grew thick and tangled, choking out the light. The hard, rocky soil of the expert mind, convinced it already knew everything, made it difficult for new seeds to sprout. The deep, stubborn roots of our old identities clung to the ground, preventing new growth. Poison ivy of envy and comparison sprang up whenever we looked over the fence at our neighbor's garden, and the suffocating vines of resentment and old anger wrapped themselves around what little beauty was trying to grow. To look upon this neglected plot of land, at first, can be discouraging. It seems like too much work, a hopeless wasteland. This is how many of us feel when we first turn our attention inward. But on this journey, we have not just looked at the weeds. We have been assembling a complete set of gardener's tools, the very skills needed to transform this wasteland into a place of beauty and nourishment. The most fundamental tool, the one we must use first, is the simple trowel of mindfulness. With this tool, we get down on our hands and knees, and we simply look. We see what is actually here. We learn to distinguish between a beautiful, flowering plant and a harmful weed. We notice the quality of the soil. We see the pests of our unwholesome, habitual thoughts before they can do too much damage. Mindfulness is the clear, non-judgmental seeing that is the foundation of all wise gardening. Once we can see clearly, we need to nourish what is good. For this, we have the watering can of metta, or loving kindness. This is the tool we use to gently water the seeds of goodness, both in ourselves and in others. Every time we offer a phrase of kindness, every time we wish another being well, we are providing the warm, life-giving moisture that allows the flowers of connection, friendship, and self-acceptance to grow. To remove the stubborn weeds of suffering, we use the sturdy weeding fork of karuna, or compassion. With compassion, we can gently but firmly work at the roots of our own pain and the pain we see in the world. We do this not with hatred for the weed, but with a clear intention to create more health and space for the whole garden. A garden also needs light. The practice of mudita, or sympathetic joy, is the tool that ensures our garden is not grown in the shadows of envy. By learning to celebrate the blossoms in other people's gardens, their successes and happiness, we open our own garden to the full, nourishing light of the sun. We understand that another's light does not diminish our own. And to protect our precious garden from the fierce winds of the world, the winds of praise and blame, gain and loss, success and failure, we build a strong and steady fence. This fence is upekkha, or equanimity. It is the unshakable balance that allows our garden to thrive, no matter the external weather. The overall landscape design, the map we use to know where to place the paths and the flower beds, is the wisdom of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. These are the tools we have gathered. You now have everything you need. There is a story of a woman who retired after a long and busy career. She felt lost and purposeless. Her house felt empty, and her days felt meaningless. Behind her house was a patch of ground that was nothing but rocks, clay, and weeds. For weeks, she ignored it. It seemed hopeless. But one day, remembering a teaching she had once heard, she decided to treat that patch of land as her practice. On the first day, she did not try to fix it. She simply took a chair and sat with it for an hour, just looking. She noticed where the sun fell. She saw a single stubborn wildflower growing up between two rocks. She just observed. This was her practice of mindfulness. The next day, she took a shovel and spent an hour digging up one large thorny bush that was casting a shadow over everything. It was hard work. This was her practice of abandoning an unwholesome habit. The day after that, she took a single bucket of clean water and gave it all to that one little wildflower. This was her practice of metta. She did not work frantically. She did not try to transform the entire garden in a weekend. She simply showed up every day and did one small, conscious thing. She pulled a few weeds. She turned over a shovelful of clay. She moved a few rocks. Slowly, patiently, week by week, the garden began to change. The soil softened, the weeds receded. She planted a few new seeds. And one day, months later, she sat in her chair and looked out upon a place of simple, humble beauty. There were flowers blooming. There were birds and butterflies. It had become a sanctuary of peace, and she realized the most important truth. Her greatest joy had not come from looking at the finished garden. Her deepest happiness had been found in the daily, patient, loving act of gardening itself. The process was the purpose. This is the ultimate understanding of our path. And this is the great secret of retirement. Our culture may see it as an autumn, a winter, a season of decline, but with the eyes of wisdom, we can see it for what it truly is. It is the great planting season of our lives. For the first time, the demands of the outer world have quieted down enough for us to hear the needs of our inner world. We have been given the most precious resource of all, time. We have the time to become the diligent, patient, and loving gardeners of our own minds. This is not a hobby to pass the time. It is the most essential and noble work a human being can do. The harvest you will reap from this garden is not measured in money or status. The fruits are peace of mind, a heart that is open and fearless, and a spirit that is filled with a quiet, unshakable joy. You are the gardener. Your mind is your own sacred plot of land. You hold the seeds of both happiness and suffering in your own hands. You possess all the tools you will ever need. Look at the magnificent gift of this season of your life. The fields are clear. The time is yours. The great work has just begun. Now is the time to plant.